What's going on, brothers? What is going on? It is your dude, Mr. International Passport, here again for yet another Future Classic live stream. First and foremost, can y'all please press a one in the live stream channel or live stream chat? If y'all can hear me loud and clear, please press a one. How is my audio? Mayday, mayday. Okay, who's in the building tonight? How's my audio? Bass pill clips. Thank you, bro, for that one there. Can I get a couple more ones from different people to make sure my audio is clear across the board? How's the audio? Am I good, Kyron?
Yeah, you're good. I was gonna say on my end, if I get disconnected, I'll just jump back on from my phone.
Okay, awesome. Bante, Faber, or Nasi, awesome. Let's get a cracking, man. So, brothers, welcome to another Future Classic live stream. I'm your gracious host, Mr. International Passport. I want to say a huge thank you to all those that have supported the channel over the past couple of years. Your support is greatly appreciated. And welcome aboard the new people. I accept and I embrace you with open arms. So, when you come in tonight or wherever you are around the world, morning or evening, please like the video. Likes are extremely important for the channel and for this video. Please show me some support. Please feel free to hit the PayPal donations and the super chats. PayPal preferably, as YouTube takes a 45% cut of each and every super chat. And of course, brothers, and of course, make sure you cop the merch and join the Patreon too to go on the IT plan on the platinum tier on the Patreon, or to hear the explicit and X-rated version of this particular live stream that Kyron broke down for me on the Patreon. Okay, that'll be dropping very soon. But we have a couple other videos on UAE on the Patreon. Awesome, awesome. So let's get straight into it, brothers. Let's get straight into it. Tonight, we shall be breaking down Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Okay, UAE, United Arab Emirates. I got a very special guest here with me called Mr. Kyron. Kyron, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So, Kyron, give me a brief background about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and anything interesting about you, bro.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. Love a lot of your videos. Learn lots of things from them, and kind of have been sharing them with people. But my name is Kyron Baxter, originally from Toronto, Canada. Lived there 25 questionable years. A lot of people, your viewers from Canada, can relate. Toronto is not the greatest place to be a single man, especially a single black man, which led me in 2018 to really start traveling more and becoming an expat. At that point, I'd only been to Silicon Valley and in and around kind of LA. But in 2018, when the violence in Toronto picked up, traveled to Japan, then traveled to UAE. Ended up getting a job in Dubai. Since then, I've been to quite a few other places. I think 14 or so countries. Lived in the UK, and now I'm living in Japan. So continuing down this expat path, and yeah, travel's really changed my life in a positive way and improved many things for me.
Wow, incredible, incredible, man. So let's get straight into it, brother. UAE, United Arab Emirates, one of the major Arabic superpowers or super states in the Middle East, brother. Where were you in? What cities, brother, in UAE you were in, brother?
Sure. So I traveled a little bit around the country. So I spent 99% of my time in Dubai, but I did spend some time in Sharjah and then Abu Dhabi.
Fantastic, brother. Why did you go to the UAE in the first place, brother? What's the origin story, brother, in going there?
Sure. I think trying to be a bit condensed, I worked in the IT industry in Toronto, and Canada's not like London or like Singapore where you have all these major international companies. Toronto's just got a couple of them, and then they'll have Google and Facebook, and it'll only be marketing there, right? So it's not like a heavy tech industry. We've not had like a Facebook or a Snapchat, so there's also not a heavy startup industry. So I worked for all the big companies. I worked for the pension board, the banks, all the kind of big local companies, the telcos, and I was making a good amount of money. Um, I had a couple of contracts that were paying me upwards of $90 an hour. I had three contracts at once, but I just wasn't happy living in Toronto. Right, it's a very terrible place to date and be single. cost of living is one of the worst housing to income ratios in the world. And, IT is just growing and growing and growing. Every time there's a new cyber attack, that just means more opportunities for people like us. And I had a friend who he's funny, he was born in London, grew up a little bit in Toronto, and then moved to UAE, set up a very successful marketing business. I've been talking to him for a couple of years, and he kept telling me, "Oh, you need to come to Dubai and see what it's like." And like I mentioned, in 2018, Toronto got pretty violent. I left the city at a good time, went to Japan, met a lot of people, locals and foreigners. And I met a girl who was basically just finishing her last year in university in Japan. And she was a local from the UAE. So when she finished, she said, "Hey, Kyron, you have your friend in Dubai. Come out." So she she flew me out, and I was really dying to kind of just see what opportunities I would have there, right? Really interesting place. Things ended up working out at the time, and yeah, I ended up landing a solutions architecture job at Emirates. So a bit of a journey, but definitely, I would say if anyone's interested in working in UAE, you want to spend some on the ground time there. So it's not really the place where you apply for jobs online and hope for the best. You want to go get a local SIM number, get a SIM card, get a local number, and start talking to people.
Incredible, incredible. Okay, brother. And we're going to go to the IT part there, and obviously trying to get a job there in IT.
Sure.
So you're there. Tell me about the culture, UAE culture, brother. Is it conservative? Is it liberal? Want to know how the culture leans towards to, brother.
I would definitely say it's more conservative, but there's like a couple of different ways to chop up what conservative means, but I think it's conservative in a way that expats, passport bros would appreciate, right? It's a very safe place. In London, I remember working in London, I have to walk my chin down to stay safe, right? Um, it can get really dicey. There's none of that in Dubai. And then sometimes in these major cities in America, you have kind of people acting really ghetto and ratchet. None of that in Dubai, right? People dress conservatively for the most part. And within that, you also have people kind of treat it like like it's a community. People are really friendly. So I wouldn't say it's super closed off, despite there being so many wealthy people. I think the fact that it's very safe and there's also this religious kind of background to it allows people to feel more comfortable and kind of really open up to each other and help each other out. So it's a really nice culture.
Incredible, incredible, bro. So now, tell me who runs that country, right? I'm guessing it's the UAE Arabic man, right? He's in power. He runs the country with an iron fist.
It's interesting, specifically for UAE. That's true what you said. Definitely the country's ran by the sheikhs. So each emirate, Dubai is a city state. So the emirate of Dubai is ran by one sheikh, and then there's a leader for the whole of UAE. But a lot of kind of the power structure in the region and specific to the UAE, it kind of gets influenced by Saudi Arabia quite a bit. And then beneath kind of Saudi and the locals, you have kind of the top level expats that would be from the UK, America, and some other countries. So there's a power structure there, but it's not like you as an expat are completely disconnected from it. Like you, believe it or not, regular expats actually have time, like face to face time, every once in a while with the sheikhs. So it's a pretty open culture. And even though, yes, the kind of Arabs control the country, it's not like they're keeping the pie completely to themselves. It's the total opposite.
Interesting. Okay, bro. So now, so accommodation wise, brother. So when you're in UAE, I want to know, brother, how you were living out there. So was it through Airbnb? Was it hotels every day? Tell me, break down accommodation wise, bro.
Sure. One thing that's really cool about UAE, if you spend some time in the UK, for example, cheap hotels are disgusting in the UK, right? They're old, they're dingy, they're in dangerous spots. In UAE, in its entirety, not just Dubai, right? There are really kind of affordable 3 and 4 star hotels, and you would think they're luxury hotels. So when I went there to look for jobs, I was just staying in hotels because at the time there wasn't a very developed Airbnb market. And even now there's really good Airbnbs, but I mean like 1 month for 2 bedrooms, you're spending 6 grand, right? In a hotel, I think for a month I was spending like 1,500 at most. So and to top it off, like again, it's such an in-person culture. I was getting deals and discounts just by talking to kind of the the hotel managers and people there. So definitely, if you want to go for like a week or two, stay at a hotel. Don't even bother with Airbnb.
Interesting. So the hotel prices, are they affordable? Are they reasonable, brother, in UAE?
They were like 1/3. I literally looked at like in June for a hotel. I was comparing Dubai and Toronto, and it was like 1/3 of the price. So Dubai's really cheap hotels and really good quality.
Fantastic. Amazing. Amazing. So now, obviously, we're Western black men. Okay.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the world, many parts of the world, they just don't, they don't like us for some reason. Skin color,
Yeah.
stereotypes, blah, blah, blah. You as a Western black man, how are you treated, in UAE, walking around? How were you perceived like, brother? Break it down for us.
Sure. I think that's a great question. Um, I think one thing that I want to make really clear for people who are listening from the United States is that a lot of the world is based on race, right? It's very hard to escape that. But I think what gets overlooked is that another chunk of the world cares more about nationality and then class than they do race. Race still matters, but as long as you're whatever nationality and have whatever level of wealth and background, you're okay. And UAE is much more kind of classist than it is racist. So, as a Western black man, you're not going to face racism in UAE. I would say, if anything, you're going to face preferential treatment. I remember when I went to go. It's funny, like in UAE, you'll find there's a lot of rules, but it's kind of up to the interpretation of whoever's kind of the locals that are running the show. So I went to go get my tourist visas extended, and the rules around that get changed all the time, and it can be confusing. And basically, there's a local there, and I think a lot of people think an Emirati would be only someone who's Arab, but there are black Emiratis, right? They look like they're just like they're black people in Sudan. And this guy literally just emailed a Gmail account, told me to wait a few minutes, and extended it for me, no problems. I'd even have to pay the fee. So it's not like people are looking at you like you're lesser than. At the end of the day, if you're American, Canadian, British, whatever, as long as you have a Western passport, you'll get the higher end jobs, the higher end pay, and you'll get the good treatment. And like I said, there are locals that look just like black people because they're black. So I wouldn't worry as a Western black man about racism at all. You'll have preferential treatment.
Black Emiratis, and these black Emiratis, are they wealthy, brother? Are they respected? Do they have power and clout there in UAE? I'm assuming they were also born in UAE, brother. That's incredible. Black Emiratis. Break it down for me, bro.
Yeah. I was actually taken aback by that too because, quite frankly, like I only knew a little bit about the country when I first got there, but being around locals and traveling with a local, uh, there are people that just look like black people from the United States or the UK. I met a girl who was really beautiful, I should mention, and she was Emirati, and she was built the way a lot of black men would like. Um, so yeah, they're born there, and I think it just kind of it's interesting. Like despite kind of contemporary politics, there are Emiratis that are mixed with like Iranian. There are Emiratis that are mixed, if you look at their genetics, mixed with kind of some of the countries from Africa. So it's not just cut and dry like people think it is. They don't look just one way.
Incredible. Thank you, bro. So, and these black Emiratis have money.
Oh, for sure. Like I would be hard pressed to find a single poor Emirati. Unlike our countries, the UAE takes care of its citizens. So if people need literally whether it's a house or a car or they want to go to school abroad, and the government will take care of that for them, right? If they're struggling to find a job, the government will find a company and kind of forcibly create an opening for them. So yeah, these people are doing incredibly well. I'll give you an example. Like amongst their community, they make fun of other Emiratis who drive a Lexus because a Lexus is too basic for them. So there's some real clout there.
Wow, incredible, man. And obviously that's a very oil rich state. And that's
Yeah.
kind of model African countries should be following, man. It's weird. Model yourself after Singapore or UAE or Saudi Arabia. Create oil state, look after your people. Um, I don't know, bruv. That's fun of a discussion, man. All right. So next question for you, brother, is so in terms of investments, right? As passport
Yeah.
bros, we get into IT. We obviously want to build wealth, and the way to build wealth is through investments. Working a salary is going to get you that building wealth aspects, right? So is there any investment opportunities you saw there for passport bros, bro?
Oh my God. Yeah, there's one that really stands out. Um, so as we've seen since COVID has happened, right? Like a lot of places that were well respected are looked at like almost dumps now, right? Like if you look at the state of the UK, people laugh at the UK like it's a poor country, right? It's one thing that people agree on in the UK that the country's doing terribly. And the same thing for Canada. We see protests, real estate prices kind of are all over the place. The job market's in the dumps, and these countries are kind of struggling. On the other side of the planet, you look at what's happened in Ukraine and some of these other countries, and there's been massive global instability. And when I first went to Dubai, there were all these really like funky real estate projects. I went to one condo to check it out, and they had like Paramount Movies. They have a gigantic movie screen in the outside of the condo, and basically they had all of these indoor movie theaters in the condo that you can live at, and they turned it into like a residence where you own your own apartment, or you can kind of like use it as a hotel. So they had all these kind of really creative ideas for properties. And at the time, Dubai real estate was actually really cheap. You'd be surprised. Like even an apartment in the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, it was like cheaper than a place that you can find in LA or Toronto. And every time there's been some of these events, whether it was the virus outbreak or the war in Ukraine, every time there's been a negative event in the world, real estate prices in Dubai have just jumped and jumped and jumped. And the nice thing is that it's not completely oversaturated yet. There's still tons of properties that are available for good prices in the center and also a little bit outside of the center. Moreover, you have American companies now building casinos in parts of UAE. So it's growing and growing. And every time the world becomes more unstable, people go there to hide their assets, legally, of course, right? But to protect their assets and kind of hide them from oppressive governments, to have a nice place to stay. And UAE real estate is like basically priceless. You get access to so many things. You buy a certain amount, you get residence permits, no capital gains tax. It's totally worth it. So if I were to invest my money in real estate anywhere, it would 100% be UAE.
Incredible, incredible. And brothers, can we please get the likes up, man? The likes are too low compared to the view ratio. There should be at least 80 likes. So please show me some support and hit that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So next question for you, brother, is the people. So
Yep.
obviously UAE is majority Arabic people, Emiratis, etc., etc. How are these people like, brother? Are they, open people? Are they kind people? Are they reserved people? Are they a bit harsh? Are they arrogant people? Could they have money? Break it down for us, bro.
Sure. It's an interesting kind of situation there. I was positively shocked at some of the stuff that happened. Um, I stayed at a hotel that, like I mentioned, there are these really nice 4-star hotels. So it's like a boutique hotel that's not far from the airport. And I was kind of just speaking to the hotel manager. Everyone in Dubai, for the most part, is really friendly. And we noticed outside the hotel, in the middle of the road, in broad daylight, someone had just left a Lamborghini Aventador with the door open. Like there's an abandoned Lamborghini in the street. So we're both looking at each other like, there's a $500,000 car here. This person's blocking traffic. Like what's going to happen? So then, of course, the police come, and the police, like everybody's scratching their head. We don't know what's going on, and we think the police are going to snap when this person shows up. Right? The police obviously would be locals, and the person comes, just like me. The person's Canadian, different race, but Canadian nonetheless. The police found out that he was a Canadian tourist. Literally got in their car, turned around, and left. Not a word left was said. Right? So number one, they are very, very, very protective of tourists and are very accommodating. Because if you had left the car in the middle of Manhattan in the street, oh boy, right? Um, the other thing, I think I told you this on the Patreon episode, but I had gotten sick when I was in Dubai. Used the public hospital, had a bit of a hospital bill, and again, like not even the price of an iPhone, right? Hospital bills there, whether you have insurance or not, are nothing. And even so, I went to go to the payment counter to pay, just going to pay in cash. And a local was working the counter, looked at me, looked at the bill, and literally just waved me off. And he paid the bill for me. I didn't have to ask, not a word said. I obviously thanked him. But there's this element of kind of kindness towards tourists and expats that you can kind of expect from the locals there. They take a lot of pride in their country, and it's a rich country, so it kind of makes sense to hold up that reputation, and they really kind of take care of the people that are there. So that's one thing I think you would expect in dealing with people there. And then also in terms of the expats, the country has strict laws at the end of the day, right? Still Sharia law at some level. So because of that, people are aware that it's a tightly controlled society, and also people are coming from different parts of the world. Not everyone speaks Arabic. Most people speak in English, but there's still different little kind of culture shock elements that people are getting adjusted to and setting up their business. Dubai has a different way of doing things, and as such, people will support each other. So that's one thing that I found in Dubai that's really awesome is that whether it's the locals or the expats, there's not, for the most part, at least, not really this air of arrogance. And I'd say it's more so just give and take respect. The locals, yes, a lot of them are rich, right? But a lot of them are rich in a way that wouldn't blow you away. If you go to Dubai Mall, you're going to see a lineup of Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and stuff like that. You'll see a couple Bentleys. But at the end of the day, the average Emirati, I would say, is like maybe upper middle class, right? They have a nice enough house, nice enough car, and the family's taken care of. So it's not like every single one of them is splashing money on gold toilets. And thus, I think it kind of keeps things in line. Plus, the government is like really pushing them to get into skilled jobs like cybersecurity. So there's an element of reality there. And the last thing I would say on that is, at the end of the day, UAE's only been rich for about, I think, like 70 years or so when they found out there was oil, right after the Brits left. So they know what it's like to be poor, right? They were struggling. People didn't have food. Now they have this rich country. So there's still a part of the population that remembers what it was like to not have things. Uh, so yeah, don't worry about arrogance and stuff like that. It's not what you're going to run into in London and LA where people, are stuck up.
Amazing, brother. So you're telling me, right, in the hospital, right, the person working at the counter saw your bill and paid it off for you.
Yep. And what's funny is like when you go to a hospital counter in most other countries, just like a regular person doing a job, and they could be well-meaning, but you know what it's like. They're not getting a high wage. The Emirati person that was working at the counter was wearing a nice Rolex. So that kind of paints the picture for you, right? They don't need the money.
Incredible, man. So transportation, brother. So when you were
Yeah,
living there, how were you moving around? Was it Uber? Was it taxi? Was it public transportation? How's that like? Break it down for us, bro.
sure. One thing that's awesome about Dubai specifically is that you can commute however you really want, right? So I used to just use Uber. Like I had my driver's license. I drove there once or twice, but I found it easier for me. You know what it's like just to pull out your phone, and just use Uber. So they have. I'm not sure if they flipped it because there was an acquisition, but they had kind of their own equivalent that was called Kareem. I believe they might have been acquired in part by Uber, but it's really just the same thing. You have ride sharing. Local taxis they're good enough, although some of them are Teslas now, which is cool. Just a regular city taxi. They also have some city taxis that are completely self-driving, which is wild. So again, you have lots of transport options in terms of getting driven around. And then there's the Dubai Metro, which is just amazing. So it goes to most of the places that you need within the city of Dubai. There are a couple of buses if you want to go kind of a little bit out, but at least within the core city, you can take the metro, and it's so comfortable, right? Like there are different carts that they have, and you can get on the kind of cheaper cart with everybody. But if you pay a little bit more, they actually have like a cordon off cart on the trains called the gold cart. So you get a gold metro card, you pay a little bit more in terms of the fare, and there's kind of like a more comfortable atmosphere in there. There's Wi-Fi. So like getting around is really easy. And the last thing I just want to point out is that if you're coming from a country where you're used to driving and you want to do that, there's a joke basically about expats coming to Dubai and buying Mustangs is the first thing they do because cars are so cheap. And obviously, gasoline or petrol is just dirt cheap in Dubai. So if you want like a nice car, you're not going to get a Lamborghini, but if you want even a sports car or like a proper luxury car, they're so cheap in UAE. So you can get around any way you want. And the last thing I should mention, pardon me, is that when you call a taxi, you can get different cars, like I mentioned, whether it be like a Tesla or just like a Toyota. But I believe even to this day, every Uber is still a Lexus.
Amazing, bruv. Wow, they're in a different world out there, brother. So,
Yeah,
now let's put on the infrastructure in
sure.
UAE. Is it clean, high rises? Is it like a modern first world city where it looks amazing, like Japan, like Tokyo, Japan? Break it down for us, bro.
That's a great question. I think people always kind of get confused when they hear about Dubai because you have to contextualize it, right? If you're coming from North America, or at least in the cities, you're used to massive skyscrapers and kind of grand condos and apartments and stuff like that. But if you're coming from Europe, unless you're in central London, Europe doesn't really have tall, super developed buildings. A lot of the buildings in Europe are old and crappy. Um, Dubai's in this really interesting place where, in the Burj Khalifa, I mentioned there's this hotel called the Armani Hotel. So the Armani designer brand, they have kind of apartments that they operate and then also hotel rooms. So there's like these ultra luxury apartments and condos you can live in, and they're actually not as expensive as you would think. All these different companies that basically all the hotel chains are there, and some of them even offer kind of residential properties. And then even just kind of like the regular local properties are really well maintained, very clean. If you're a little bit more rustic and you don't mind something being a little bit grittier, I mean, like for less than 1,000 USD a month, you can get apartments in UAE still. So there's both sides, right? If you want to go outside of the core of Dubai, you can get a place for dirt cheap in a place called Dera. So Dera is the old city center. You can get apartments there that are really cheap and are like good enough. But in the Dubai proper, you're getting beautiful luxury. A lot of the apartments and condos are huge. So that's not something I would worry about. The metro is spotless. They, you know, specifically, actually, they built their metro as to if you had to rebuild a London metro, what would you do to make it good, right? So it's not filthy. There's no eating and drinking on the trains. Don't do that or you get a fine. And just public places are very carefully groomed and maintained. I wouldn't say it's necessarily Singapore level because it's still in the desert, but for the most part, it is incredibly clean. And restaurants and places you go to have very high hygiene standards. And you'll see once in a while, even in the airport, they have kind of robots that go around cleaning the place by itself. So cleanliness is like of the utmost importance for them, especially when you have people of all these different cultures coming in. That's one thing that they really kind of keep a eye on is how clean is Dubai and how clean are the food places.
Wow, incredible, incredible. So now, brother, food.
Yeah.
What kind of food did you eat out there, brother, in UAE? Is it good food? Is it cheap food? Is it food that brothers would love? Break it down for us, bro.
Sure. I think one thing for me as a Canadian is, we miss out on a lot of stuff they have in the US, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't even think we have to this day a Wingstop in Canada. So when I first went to Dubai, I was kind of like, okay, this is a Muslim country. I don't eat pork, so that works out well for me. And I've had certain kind of Middle Eastern foods before, but everything is there, right? So if you do really want it, you can go to a butcher and buy pork. But at the end of the day, all the food that you would go out in typical shops are all halal, so there's going to be no pork. And yeah, I mean, you can find kind of all the Western dishes you want. There's Popeyes and Wingstop. Um, Church's Chicken is there. Stuff might have a different name, but all the kind of typical fast food brands are there. And then in terms of like regular going out and sitting down food, they have everything, right? They have kind of local Arabic foods that are, I mean, they taste amazing. People go to Dubai just to eat. The UK has terrible food, so people would fly to Dubai just to have meals. That's how good the food is in Dubai. And again, sit down restaurants, you can find something like exotic, even Chinese food is there. And then they have the traditional kind of Western stuff like Cheesecake Factory. So you're not going to feel out of place if you need to go and run to somewhere familiar or you have some allergies or something. You can find something. There's Tim Hortons there as well. But in terms of the local food, the grilled meats they have, the breads, the dips, everything is just incredible. It's one of the best places for just going around and eating a ton of food. You'll gain weight there if you're not careful.
Is it cheap, the food?
Oh, it's dirt cheap. Yeah, like I didn't even budget for food when I was there. There was no point. Like if you're eating at a really expensive restaurants, of course that will catch up to you. But literally just going out and eating regular food, I just didn't even think about it.
Incredible, man. UAE are doing some great things there. You mentioned Tim Hortons, man. I was in Canada last year and I was obsessed with Tim Hortons, man. They got some good donuts, they got some
Yep.
good sandwiches. I was having that every day, man. So shout out to Tim Hortons, man. I love that place out there in Canada, bro. Oh man, I miss Vancouver. A good comment here. He says here, "Damn, how can Africa replicate this success with all the resources in Africa? There has to be a way. We all know the problem, corruption, but more
Yep.
particularly the West.
That too.
Particularly America, UK. They
France.
are France as well. They are screwing over that continent to keep it a stack. You know, it's funny how Joe Biden quickly rushes to the what's it called the press conference to give full support to Israel for what's happening today, knowing as to what they've been doing, in that particular region of the Middle East. I'll keep it a stack, bruv. A lot of problems that we as black men have in this world is down to Western powers, okay, and what's going on, bruv. So, you know, hopefully one day we'll be on top. Right now, we got to make sure that we do what we can do, get into IT, being passport bros, investing in crypto. We can only do what we can so far and so forth. So, next question for you, brother, okay, is
Sure.
cost of living. So, tell me the cost of living out there in UAE. Were you struggling to get by, or did you have more than enough money left to save and invest, bro?
So this is gonna be a bit of a shock. So I came there, and it was my first like official architect role. As a contractor, your title kind of means less, and it's just, hey, we're paying you a good amount of money, you figure it out. So when I got my job at Emirates and I was working as a solution architect, that was my first time as, it's going to be like a full time role. This is your official title. We're going to treat you in that capacity. Um, and the pay was, I mean, decent enough. It was 10,000. It was about 10,000 US dollars a month. And the crazy thing about UAE is that there's no income tax. So you get paid, whatever your salary is, that's it. There's no taxes that come after that. And, you know, when I first got there and just staying in this place was so easy, they put me in like a cheap apart hotel and they took care of the first month or so for me, like a month or month and a half. And yeah, I just kept staying there because it was good enough. And they had like breakfast service as well. And I can't remember exactly how much I was paying, but it was less than 2,000 a month. So you think about it, you're making 10K a month after tax, which is zero tax, and you're paying less than 2 grand for rent. And again, the nice thing is like you can go as expensive as you want, right? You can pay 3 to 5 grand and live in somewhere ultra luxurious, or you could just live somewhere a little bit outside of the city center, still be connected to transport, and pay 1,200 bucks or less for rent. For me, I kind of had like a nice in between close to the office, and it was super easy. So that's your only major expense is your rent, and even that's not bad, right? If you want a
Hmm.
car, cars are dirt cheap in Dubai. Like I mean, literally a car that would be $70,000 in the US, you probably get for like 30, 40 grand. And the terms for financing and leasing are just like they're so kind of favorable to you. And like I mentioned, gas, insurance, those are cheap. Cell phones are cheap there. The most you would pay if you do something ridiculous would be like 100 bucks a month. And that's on like the top end. You get a brand new expensive iPhone. Most people would be paying like, 20 to 40 bucks a month on that. Food, I used to splurge a bit on food, so it would be closer to 300 bucks a month. And then transport, it really depended, because sometimes I would kind of get taken places by work, so it wasn't as bad. But you're looking at between 1 and 400 a month. Just depends on how much you use Uber and stuff like that. But just keep in mind your salary. I think the lowest salary a Western expat will get would be like 5 grand, 5 grand a month. And then the more senior you are, you probably get to 10 grand pretty easily. And then if you go on a full expat package, this is the nice thing for people that are more senior in their career or they have some really in demand skills, they will throw you double what I got as like a base. So there are people base salary that are getting in IT 20,000 US dollars a month. And some of them on top of that, they actually get given either an apartment or a villa to live in. So they're getting 20K a month, no tax, and they have a nice place to stay in. And some of them also get a car. So just think about that for career development and how that will boost your finances.
Wow. Incredible, bro. Absolutely incredible. Wow. So next question for you, brother, right?
Sure.
Is safety, right? Did you
Yeah.
feel safe there as a passport bro, as a brother, particularly walking around, being by yourself? Were you safe there, brother?
Yeah. Um, you know, I think black men have this superpower to detect when something is up and something is just not safe. We've been through a lot and seen a lot, and I've been in a couple of places in the world where, even London, where I stepped outside the hotel, spidey senses tingled, and I literally just turned right back inside. I had been to the wealthiest parts of Dubai and also the poorest, and I never once felt at risk. Not even for a second. It didn't matter whether I was around kind of the poorest of the poor, migrant workers, completely different situation than us expats. We're quite lucky, or I was around locals, or even the police. No one's gonna bother you. Literally, uh, you could drop a wallet full of money in a taxi, and because of the way things are set up in Dubai with cameras and the culture, that cab driver is going to bring back your wallet with not a single dollar gone because they know if they take anything, they'll be in a lot of trouble, right? And also by giving kind of the money back and giving the wallet back, it's good for UAE and they get good treatment. So everyone's incentivized to behave well. It's not just like, oh, we have strict laws and everyone walks on eggshells. People are incentivized. There have been people that have done really kind things to help people out, and they've gotten to meet the sheikhs, and the sheikhs have done stuff for them. So everybody's kind of at their best behavior, and there's no tolerance for kind of that silly stuff that you see in other places where people get belligerent and fight. Um, you won't even see the police kind of beating them up or anything like that. They'll get arrested and then you'll never hear of them again, right? So there's no room for kind of any violence or, you know, I think when you go out in some of these cities now, if even if you're with a woman, you can't have to worry. Not like that in Dubai at all. You can have a couple of drinks, have a good time, hop in a taxi. As long as you're not belligerent, you'll be totally fine.
Fantastic, man. Absolutely fantastic, bro. So, next question for you, brother, is in terms of, um, so you're saying you dealt with no racism there at all in UAE?
It was my first time in life I had preferential treatment as a black man. It was actually very weird.
Wow, incredible, bruv. What?
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, right? Like, there's weird race politics in London, and there's a lot of that applies to Toronto. Um, and there are other places where I felt welcomed or like, almost like even outside of kind of the matrix. But when I went to UAE, it was without a doubt preferential treatment.
So, brother, so where would you rank? So, obviously, you're a black Canadian man, right? You
Yeah,
probably spoke with black American men there, maybe met some black British men there, brother, right? So,
for sure.
where do Western black men rank, in terms of preferential treatment in UAE, brother?
This might be shocking, but I don't really think because of a few things. I think that, like I mentioned, you have the locals who kind of are in government. They're at the top of the totem pole. Beneath them, you have kind of the other wealthy Arabs from the other GCC countries like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. And then as Western black men who are expats or even just tourists, you're just right below them. You're actually, in my opinion, you're at the same level as white expats. Because the funny thing about being in North America, right? Especially in a place like Canada, is that everybody tends to worship Europeans. But as you leave the West, you kind of find out there are rich white countries and then there are dirt poor white countries. So in UAE, they have poor white people that live there too. And there's not really as much of this like white worshiping thing going on. An expat is an expat. So you're kind of at parity with the white expats there. I didn't feel like, when I was around other expats, they were getting more respect to me because they're white. I didn't feel that for 1 second at all.
Amazing, brother. So, do UAE people, right, and do the foreign people know the difference between a Western brother and an African brother, or a foreigner brother, or even Indian foreigner but so when they look at you, they know, okay, he's not African, he's black Canadian. Do they have that kind of spidey senses, bro?
They do. And this is the thing that I have to give UAE a lot of credit for because most countries are really bad at this. Like, there's so many little tells that give people the hint that you're from like the UK or Canada or the USA, right? And they're used to dealing with people of different cultures. So I I've literally it's one of the only places also I've gone somewhere and people stop me and said, "Hey, specifically, you're Canadian, right?" Um, they really have that kind of knowledge of, oh, people from this country dress this way, they behave in this mannerism, they speak a certain way. You know, they'll point out like, oh, a lot of Canadians are very skinny and have breathy voices. They're very knowledgeable, and that's nice because just I think in Europe, right? You get a black person from the United States, and they'll treat you like you're, like a illegal refugee if you go to somewhere like Italy, right? But in
Mm.
UAE, that's not a thing. The other thing I would point out though is that even though people who are considered like migrant workers do get worse treatment than the expats, ironically, the African migrant workers aren't at the bottom of the totem pole. Like the people that are from kind of Ghana, Nigeria, do tend to get better treatment than the Indians and like Sri Lankans and the Pakistanis. So even on that kind of level, black people are not at the bottom. And yeah, it's really refreshing. I'll say that.
Oh, can I ask why, bro? That's normal. That normally isn't the case. Normally, we're treated pretty badly wherever we go to. We're normally at the bottom. How are they lower than us, brother? Why is that?
I think so. There's one thing that doesn't get said, but should be pretty obvious, is that religion matters a lot in the UAE, right? Um, they don't force religion on you. There's none of that in UAE whatsoever. But these are people that are raised with a very religious background. So, you know, in other places I've gone to, right? I travel with the Bible. Um, they'll look at the Bible and some people will like scoff at it or make a comment or whatever when I'm going through customs. In UAE, anytime I would come into the country, it'd be like a sigh of relief. Or, in job applications, they make you fill out your religion. And, I'm Christian. And for them, it's kind of like, you're not Muslim, but Abrahamic religion, good enough. It's okay. Right. So when you think about the makeup of Africa, most of it that kind of they're getting the workers from would be Christian or Muslim. And that kind of culturally works well with them. I think there are some pretty big cultural differences between people, practicing Islam versus people that are practicing kind of Hinduism or, Jainism and some of these other things. So there's a little bit kind of closer cultural alignment there. And then, like I mentioned, some of them kind of feel a little bit more connected with like kind of black people and black culture, right? Um, there are a lot of black entertainers from the United States and from the UK who get treated like royalty in the UAE. And there is, especially amongst the young people, a real reverence for what's considered black culture. So yeah, we're far from the totem pole. A lot of those entry level jobs are reserved for certain nationalities, and those kind of entry level jobs that aren't the worst, right? Like being a hotel security guard or a concierge, stuff that we would do as Westerners. Um, you know, it's again, it's not necessarily fair, but the reality is that in UAE, they reserve kind of those like really brutal construction jobs where people get hurt and the pay isn't great. Those are reserved for typically like Indian, Pakistani, Afghani workers. And then like security and concierge jobs, those are reserved for people from like Turkey, Ghana, Nigeria, and then the Philippines. So there is some kind of class by nationality. But if you notice, right, the ones where I said the jobs that are okay, Turkey's a Muslim country, Philippines is a Christian country, and Africa is split between Christianity and Islam. So keep in mind that you'll get some better treatment depending on your religion.
Wow, so but you're telling me, right? There are people, Emirati people, Arabic people that love black culture, and because of that, they respect us, and then they give us, good treatment out there. They give us respect out there because they really like our culture, bro. Whoa.
It's twofold, right? Because if you think about youth culture, and they have kind of like this really cool event every year. It's called Soul DXB, and they've had rappers from the UK and the USA perform there, and they're very much into street culture, and well, not gangster street culture, but like streetwear. So I think before almost everywhere they had the brand Off White. They had an Off White store in Dubai Mall, and they've always really been into that culture. Artists that are kind of popular in very specific pockets, whether that's like a rapper like Heady One or even 50 Cent or Takashi 69, well loved in UAE. And yeah, they really like kind of contemporary modern black culture. That's on the side of like young people and specifically a lot of young men, right? And then on the older people side, all of them, if you ask any old Arab person, they all love Lionel Richie and they love old black music. Um, so that resonates with them. And then with the women, specifically kind of, like 18 to 45, let's say, they love two genres of music. They love K-pop and then they love black music, right? I think it sounds silly, but Kanye West marrying Kim Kardashian and then, Travis Scott dating Kylie Jenner, for whatever reason, those are the people that a lot of young women in that region kind of have some reverence for kind of fashion and trendiness. And yeah, that's done some positive PR for us. So you'll be looked at in a positive light there as kind of trendy, but you don't have that kind of, oh, you're just like, oh, you're cool, but we're not going to take you serious. They're still going to look at you like an expat, just you have a little bit more kind of a coolness factor to you. So it's really nice.
That's amazing. And we are going to go on to the woman part very soon, brother, which is going to
Cool.
shock you. But you're telling me, brother, that when you spoke to Emirati women there, right? They
Yep.
told you that, they like Kim Kardashian, they like Kylie Jenner, and those two women that I've obviously dated and had children with black men has influenced them, brother, to go for brothers.
It's so funny. Like, I wouldn't say that they model themselves after them on a personal level. Like, they take little things fashion wise from them. Especially like if you see on Snapchat, a lot of these girls from these conservative Muslim countries, they post on Snapchat and you can see it, right? Um, but in terms of like dating and stuff like that, very much so. The Kardashians have dated a ton of black men, and they're definitely a lot of them are looking for brothers. And it's just a different culture there. Like even the local Emirati men, a lot of them really like black women and Filipino women. So there's a lot of cultural similarities.
Hey, don't let possible sisters know. Don't let possible sisters know, man.
What's funny? I actually met a really lovely Black American woman, works in tech, really well connected to venture capitalists, and she married an Arab guy there. So it works both ways. There's not this kind of like, I know right now in other countries it's weird and like the passport women are looking down on the guys for stupid reasons. It's not like that in UAE. The country's too rich for people to look down on people.
Incredible intel, bro. Incredible. Wow, 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 wow. So, brother, last
Sure,
part here. Two more questions before going to the woman part, right?
cool.
Lifestyle. Um, what is the lifestyle like, brother, in UAE, brother? Is it a chill lifestyle? Is it a very serious lifestyle? Are you living cool? Break down the lifestyle for us in UAE, brother, that you lived.
Sure. I think that kind of overarching culture of family and religion, even though Islam is a very serious and focused on its values and respect, it kind of mellows out the country, right? And when you factor in the fact that, look, if you come from India, Pakistan, some of these poorer countries in Africa, there's a lot of problems in those countries that are terrible. Then you come to a place like Dubai and the police have Bugattis. You're going to feel happy that you live there and you're doing better. Um, so I would say, in terms of day to day life, because of that, people are just very chilled out and it plays into your lifestyle. So a typical weekend for me in Dubai would be, if I woke up on time, wasn't kind of having a blast the night before, Saturday morning, get up, have a great breakfast. Anything I kind of would want would be prepared, right? Um, it was included in the place I was staying as well, which was great. I would kind of either, go to the mall, do some shopping, hang out, check out different places, go to some different restaurants with some friends. All of them were pretty well connected with different businesses, so you meet a lot of business connections and career connections, just having lunch, just doing regular stuff. Or I would kind of just take a chill day, go to the beach. It's completely free. Hang out at the beach, relax, lounge around. There's other things you could do. There was a day that me and my friend who's Emirati, we went out to Abu Dhabi and actually got to drive on a Formula One racetrack, which was interesting. Um,
What?
there's Yeah, I drove on Yas Marina, which was kind of like a dream come true for me. If you ever played Forza, I think in the Forza game with the Porsche on the cover, the main racetrack is Yas Marina, and I got to drive there. Beside Yas Marina is Ferrari World, which is like this huge outdoor amusement park. So there's tons of stuff to do in UAE, and then there's also a thriving nightlife as well.
And brother, that friend was Emirati?
She was, yes.
Oh, she was. Oh, wow. Or was that the one you met in a different country, right?
Yeah, correct. Met her in
Oh,
Japan.
wow. Brav. Okay. Oh, my goodness. So now, brother, well, you're IT, bro. And brothers, we got over 110 people watching. We need to get the likes up, please, and more supports and more super chats, please. That'd be greatly appreciated. But number two here, brothers, right? IT. I'm gonna keep pushing IT for you, brothers. This brother, Kyron, works in IT, and that's the reason why he was able to work in Dubai. If you're not making plans to work in IT, I kind of feel sorry for you. I have been pushing IT for the past 2 years now. I have seen from my own two eyes, right, the success that brothers who have been on my mentorship plan are doing in IT right now, brothers. Okay, you need to get into IT. If you're serious about IT, you would book your consultations with me. You get on the IT on the IP mentorship plan on the platinum tier on my Patreon or the IP lightning tier. Get into IT. So Kyron, right? You're in IT, bro, isn't it?
Yes, and do you mind if I kind of comment on what you just said there?
Of
Um,
course, bro.
I think people definitely need your mentorship. You know, you and Theo know so much. Um, Look, when I was 18, like I was basically homeless, couch surfing before I got opportunities working in IT. It completely changed my life. And the thing that's really funny is that I don't have a diploma. I dropped out of high school, right? I don't have a college or university degree, and I just worked in IT and made good choices aligned with a lot of the stuff that you push the people you mentor to, and it's worked out fabulously, right? I think anyone right now, if you're listening and you're thinking about what you should do to make some money, even if you're kind of, young people don't like waiting around, you can make good money in IT pretty quick if you just get aligned with kind of, cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity, or software development. It's funny. Back in 2014, I used to work on an AI platform, and that has really helped my career right about now. I'm sure you can imagine. So, anyone who's thinking of what they should do, whether it's starting their career or pivoting, IT takes you places. There are even in a lot of countries visas that are specifically designed for people in IT that have very different requirements that are a lot easier to meet, and the pay and the way you get treated and the respect that you have when you're a black expat and you go to a country and you say you work in IT, it's very different. So do yourself a favor and listen to IP.
Absolutely. Thank you, bro. So I've got a super chat here before I go into the IT part. Shout out to Mr. J Remo for the £5 super chat. I appreciate you, bro, for the support. Brothers, get the super chats flowing, get the PayPal donations flowing, man. Yet another classic live stream. You gotta support what I'm doing, man. I'm offering you solutions in this crazy world we're living right now, man. Pure solutions, man. I'm not complaining about this and that. I'm giving you solutions, man. So please support. Can you explain the visa situation and can you do more than one job and go remote if you're in IT? Go on,
Sure.
Karen.
That's a really good question from Jay. So the visa situation in Dubai is so funny. First off, if you're from a Western country, you can just show up, right? You don't need a visa to enter as a tourist. If you have a passport from a developing country where you need a visa to go to UAE, there is actually a nice catch to that, which is if you book a flight directly with Emirates or Etihad, so going into Dubai or Abu Dhabi on their airlines, they'll actually take care of the visa for you. So getting in the country as a tourist to go and meet people, super easy. In terms of once you get a job, once you get a job offer, the company will take care of your visa for you. That is also super streamlined. I lazily filled out some paperwork and I had a visa 4 days later. You know, they'll typically advise you when you get the job offer, give it a month for processing. And I did it at peak times and it was still like 4 days. So visas are very quick and painless, not a lot of paperwork. Another thing, I know a lot of people have come from different backgrounds, different situations. A criminal record does not exclude you from getting a visa in UAE. So if you maybe made some mistakes earlier in your life, you're trying to turn your life around, they completely don't care at all. Um, you can actually get a visa without any problems and go work in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, doesn't matter. So don't even worry about it. It's something they've streamlined. Also, one thing I want to point out is that be careful when you read information about the process, because when I went back in 2018, the process wasn't as streamlined as it is now. UAE is a really amazing country. They invest in their infrastructure, So before there was this kind of like bureaucratic process where you give your passport in, they do some kind of stamping and some other stuff. Almost all of it is all electronic now. So super easy, super streamlined. Basically, all you got to do is go there and network with people and find a job. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you,
Oh,
bro.
pardon me. I missed the last part there, which is can you go remote? So the nice thing about UAE is that they don't really care as much if you're like working for a company and you want to stay in the country, or if you want to be self-employed. There are different visas you can get whether you're a nomad or you're going to be self-employed and start your own business there that are easy to obtain, and then you can work for multiple employers. The other thing though is that if you want to make it work with the time zones or you're doing some consulting, let's say you have a job that's in person in UAE and you want to do some consulting on the side, they totally don't care. So it's a very open country, and you can kind of switch visas as you need, and they keep adding new visas to kind of make things easier. So it's almost like just find whichever visa is best tailored for you and just go with it.
Awesome. Right. And you can work more than one job in UAE.
So the thing that I'll point out is like they're actually moved, which is awesome. They're moving to a 4-day working system, right? So really, the idea is that if you're there, you'll be working one like desk job. A lot of the jobs are either hybrid or kind of fully in the office, but it's a relaxed vibe, I should point out. And moving towards 4-day work weeks, so the feasibility of you working two jobs isn't really there, but they're compensating you to the point where you don't need to work two jobs. But if you're the type of person where it's like, hey, 24 hours in a day, wake up, 20 minutes before work, shower, go to work, and then go home and do another job remote, you can do that. So it's not a problem at all.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you both for answering that super chat. So, brother, you were working IT in UAE, brother. How
Yes,
was that like, brother? Did you get paid well? How was the IT culture like out there? Break it down for us, bro.
sure. Um, so the first thing I would say is like, um, I think everybody listening who has their kind of eyes on how to make some good money in IT is there's a bunch of different working models in like Europe and North America, whether it's like a full-time job or a contract job. So in America they have like W8 and W2 jobs, and then in the UK they have PAYE and then working as limited company or umbrella. And all those things really influence heavily how much money you make. In Dubai, it's just kind of like, nope, here's your skill level, here's a nationality, and here's a salary, right? So if you're mid-level IT person from a Western country, like I said, the least amount of money you'll make is 5,000 US a month. That's excluding any other kind of benefits and extra compensation. And yeah, I felt that as a Canadian, there are people doing highly skilled work. When I was working, doing architect level work, right, for the first time in my career, I was working for like a telco. Didn't have the architect title, but I was doing really heavy work, getting flown out to Vancouver, all sorts of building out data centers. They were paying me like what a security guard in America would make. Right? They were paying me awful money. Dubai, that's not a problem. They took really good care of me in terms of my income. And then, like I said, income to cost of living ratio is perfect. In terms of the working environment, it totally depends, right? Because if you work for a company where a lot of the people are from kind of, let's be realistic, a lot of IT is dominated by Indian workers, right? Um,
Mm,
a company with a ton of Indian workers, it's going to have a really different culture than if you go and work for VMware or one of these cybersecurity companies from America that are in downtown Dubai. Um, it's going to have a different vibe. So it really depends on the type of company you work for.
amazing, amazing, bro. Fantastic. So, next question for you, brother. Right.
Sure.
In regards to the IT space, brother, um, is there opportunities for brothers in IT to make great money, save money, have great savings, get paid well, brother, in UAE?
Yeah. I think one thing that's amazing about UAE is that as long as you're responsible or well connected, I should say, you'll be able to save money pretty easily. Um, it's just not expensive to live there by any stretch of the imagination, based off the salaries an IT person would get. And the other really amazing thing, I think a lot of first time expats won't know this, but we have all these credit agencies like Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. If you're in the UK, Canada, and America, right?
Mm,
Um, and fixing your credit for a lot of Black people is like an ongoing issue. I remember when I was 18, the first negative thing I had on my credit report was my mom put a storage unit in our name when I was homeless, and she didn't pay for the storage unit. It went to collections, and it trashed my credit. When I went to UAE, I found out, oh yeah, your credit profiles from one country doesn't follow you to the other. So what's really nice is that if you have a good salary in Dubai, or even just like an average salary, you can get credit cards that obviously you have to use responsibly, but it works very differently there. So they will say, oh, you're making, let's say, $10,000 per month. Your credit limit will be a multiple of your monthly income. So, it could be 3 times or 10 times or 5 times. It just depends on the provider. But getting access to credit cards like pretty quickly is actually easy for a Western expat. The other thing that's nice is if you want to get a mortgage on a place, do some sort of financing on a car, it's a breeze. The requirements are all based off of you just having a job and good income. So I wouldn't worry at all between, you know, good salaries, no income tax, no capital gains if you're doing, crypto trading and, investing in the stock market, and then also just financing of stuff in the UAE is super easy. It's very, very, very easy for you to make good money there if you're even remotely focused at all. You know, keep your head down, eyes on the prize. Also, look out for opportunities because the nice thing is that it's a global hub for investment, right? So there are going to be lots of brands that are looking to do partnerships with people, whether they're, hey, can you be a consultant, or hey, we have major hotel chains come there looking for people to do stuff, whether it's marketing, IT. So there's tons of opportunities there for you to make money on the side outside of your job. And yeah, it's easy to invest in real estate and other things that are there. So definitely keep your eyes open.
Amazing, brother. So, one more point on the working culture there, brother. Like,
Sure.
are there rules there for people to not to get out of hand? Is it like, compliance, be respectful, don't say slurs, just get your job done? How is the working environment in terms of having rules and morals set in place, bro, like there is in the West?
Sure. So, um, like I said earlier, right? It heavily depends on kind of, are you working, if in IT at least, you're working in a company that's like heavily dominated by workers from like India, because they have their own culture. But if you're working in a place where it's more expats, then one thing I'll say to you that's funny that I found is that even with locals in the building working with you, the working culture is more laid back. And what you can get away with saying in the office is actually more free than it is in the UK and America. Like, it's almost like going back in time 15 years in a good way. You don't have to walk on eggshells what you say. Obviously, you have to be respectful and professional, but, little things that will get you in trouble in the West, especially now, kind of post Me Too movement, post kind of having cancel culture and some of these other silly things. That's not a problem in Dubai. Just be respectful to people, right? Don't get handsy with your female coworkers for the most part. And yeah, when locals are around, be respectful to them. But it's a very kind of relaxed vibe. People go to work, but they don't have that culture of they live to work. They work so that they can live.
Amazing, bro. Incredible. So before I go on to the woman part, brother, you mentioned how
Sure.
they love black culture out there, brother. I hope they're not saying the N word, because you find that some people that love the black culture, try too hard,
Yeah.
and start saying the N word. Was that a problem there for people, or no one said the N word towards you at all, or out there in the open?
No, I mean, so no one who is like over the age of 15 ever said it to me. I had some kids, some Emirati kids say it to me who were 15 and talking about how much I love rap music, but it was like well meaning, and little teenage boys are going to be stupid, and I just kind of corrected them. But even then, like, some of them are just black. Some of them look like me, all right? Um so I wasn't really mad at it, the same way as when you go to like a festival in Portugal or in America and you have a bunch of white kids, rapping YG my N word lyrics. It's not the same type of thing there. And especially once you get past a certain age, because like I said, kids will be kids. People are super respectful. They wouldn't dare.
Awesome, man. Because I ain't gonna let that fly, bro. I keep it stacked, man. I can't stand that word. So, um, hopefully it doesn't happen to me, or they will get checked.
No. The other thing I'll say is like, which I really appreciate, right? Is when London's a little bit different because you guys have this small space, but in America and especially in Canada, there's almost like this culture vulture thing where people who aren't black get to enjoy black culture. but then the black people making black culture really get looked down upon. Um, there's a famous video in Toronto where J. Cole doesn't get allowed entry into a club, which is crazy to think about, an A-list celebrity. And to make it worse, he's with Michael B. Jordan. So they both get denied entry to this club, and people are outside this, chanting "Free J. Cole, free J. Cole." It was kind of sad to see, like when the Raptors won the championship, there was a scandal article where basically they were going around in the summertime, taking down the basketball hoops in Toronto to not basically have people come from different areas of, obviously, let's be real, black background and play basketball. But the city brands itself as, behind a lot of these popular black culture stuff. So you're not going to find that in Dubai, where they love black culture casually, but they hate you to your face and don't want you there. It's total opposite.
Awesome. Fantastic, man. So that's the first part of the stream, brothers. Intel on culture, IT, etc., etc. Before we go on to the woman part completely, brother, is there anything else you want to add on about IT or whatever?
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to add is that, like I said, being a Western expat, you kind of have an advantage. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're white or black, you're a Westerner, you're a Westerner. One thing you really want to do in Dubai, dress well. This is the cool thing. It could be streetwear or it could be kind of formal business attire, but just dress sharply, right? And go and put yourself in these different events. Talk to the different men and women there. It doesn't matter if they're, from poor countries or rich countries. Rub elbows with people, and you'll meet the right people you need to know socially, and also career wise. There's a nightclub in Dubai called Base Nightclub. Went to the first day it opened. Takashi was performing, and in the line, I met this guy. And long story less long, when I moved to the UK later to do some contract work, he was a recruiter. So he lived in Dubai, worked in Dubai, went back to the UK, and when I was looking for some contract work in the UK, that guy reached out to me. So just think about how easy it is to network in Dubai, and that's exactly how you're going to land jobs and your opportunities. Just go and rub elbows with people. It's not like a sharp elbow place like New York or London. Go and make friends, and it will help you.
Incredible, brother, right? Let me ask this question, right? And this might
Sure.
sound ridiculous, right? This might sound
No,
outrageous.
not
But
all.
would you say that, black men have black privilege in United Arab Emirates, particularly Western black men?
I would say it's hard to argue otherwise, right? Like, uh, it was the first time that I felt like I could. There's like a thriving nightlife culture, and then there's a business and investments culture. It didn't matter if I was leaving the house in a suit or I was wearing kind of, designer sneakers and a gold chain. I was getting treated the same way, either or. And it's funny because I remember, and when I was living in Toronto, I lived in a really nice neighborhood before I left, and I ran this experiment where basically I dressed really nice. I had a finance job, right? I was working for a finance company rather, wearing my business clothing, and I got treated like crap. Okay. So then went back a couple days later, dressed like Chief Keef. I got treated like crap, but I got treated like crap the exact same way. So what I find is that in the West, no matter how you carry yourself as a black man, a lot of times you will get treated a certain way, whether you realize it or not up front. In Dubai, it's totally different in a good way. So definitely a sense of privilege there. And as a Westerner, you'll get paid more, for example, than a white person who's Russian, right? A lot more. There was quite frankly, there was a Russian person doing a similar job to me in Emirates, and he was making on the dot half of what I was making, which is still good money, right? You're coming from Russia's not that expensive to live in, but nonetheless, you see that difference there. So just keep that in mind, right? When you go to Dubai, the thing that they're looking at you for isn't necessarily, oh, are you black? Are you white? Are you this? It's like, what country are you from? Oh, you're from Canada. Or you're from America. Oh, a rich country. Okay, we're not. You're not like a ward of the state almost. We don't have to take care of you the same way. You will kind of do things that will help UAE, whether it's tourism or building the country through working. So you get looked at in a good light.
Awesome, bro. Two more questions on the IT stuff, right?
Sure.
So, um, how does one get an IT job in the UAE? You're in the West right now. You're in America. You're in the UK, and you're thinking about moving to the UAE. Do you apply to UAE companies directly, or do you do it through a recruiter? No, while you're in the West, how does it work, brother? In your opinion, what's the best way in your opinion?
Sure. So one thing I have to preface, and this is actually a really nice thing about Dubai, is that once you're there and you're kind of moving and shaking, it actually opens up other countries to you because now you're working in an expat location. So a recruiter from Hong Kong or Singapore, Luxembourg, they'll start to look at you, right? The rules are a little bit different if you're a British person. If you're living in the UK, a lot of the recruiters are from the UK. So you'll always, if you have a good enough profile on LinkedIn and you're living in the UK, which I experienced even while living there, they'll reach out to you for jobs in the Middle East, whether it's Saudi Arabia or UAE. For everyone who's living in America, Canada, Australia, wherever else, the best thing for you to do, hop on an Emirates flight, spend 2 weeks there, and just apply to jobs with a local number. Getting a SIM is easy, by the way, but with a local number, apply to jobs from the typical recruiters you would back at home, right? So that's like a Randstad or a Robert Waters. Go to those typical IT recruiters, call them up as well. And then, like I said, go to networking events, even just going to mixers and having drinks with people. Those are the ways you could do it. You can apply to companies directly, um, but just keep in mind UAE is a very different culture. So, for example, when I applied for Emirates, I got reached out to by one recruiter, and then they passed me on to another recruiter. But that recruiter was owned by Emirates. So companies operate a little bit differently. They might have a separate company that does recruitment that they also own. So that's why it doesn't matter if you're applying directly or to recruiters, do both. The only thing I would say is that just aim for companies that are reputable, right? So like a venture-backed startup is a good one. If they have some decent investors, go there. Or if it's like a company that you know of, if VMware, Dell, or Apple's hiring and it's a job that you can do, you would be stupid not to apply, right? But if you're applying for kind of like maybe like a retail store that's not some American British company, be careful because those are the ones that would be hiring kind of people from different countries and be paying them a lot less and have different expectations. So just aim for the companies that are reputable, and then the recruiters, you'll know who's who, right? Like once I started applying for some jobs there, I had actually quite a few recruiters who were living in Dubai that were from the UK, and they kind of look after the expats and they started connecting me with companies. So that's how you kind of get going.
And is that how you got your first job there, bro? When you were in UAE?
Yeah, absolutely. The recruiters I are dealing with were almost exclusively British, so it should be pretty easy.
Fantastic, brother. So obviously, like you go there for holiday,
Yeah.
you still work for a Western company. You get a job while you're in UAE. Do you tell them, hey, I'm still working for my Western company. I got a 1 month notice. Is that okay with you? And they'll wait for you, brother.
Yeah. The first thing I would say about kind of UAE in general that's interesting, despite being able to achieve so much in short periods of time, they don't really have that like snap your fingers rush culture. Um, Things get delayed in UAE. They take it on the chin. So if you granted, please everyone be very careful. A lot of companies telling you have to give a month notice. That's not legal in a lot of places anymore, right? But for people that are maybe trying to leave on a good note and get a reference and have to do whatever, if you need an extra week or 2 weeks to start, company, unless they're completely to the gun, like you're working for like some event, most companies in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi, they're not going to care if you need even an extra month. They have enough money, they can make things work, and they're more so willing to recruit the right person and take their time to get that done versus necessarily kind of filling a role. If they just wanted to put like a body in a seat, quite frankly, they would not be going for the expensive expat. Let's be real, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, salary negotiations, bro. How does that work there when dealing with recruiters and the company, the UAE company? Do you set your price and then they'll agree with you, or they'll try to negotiate with you? How does it work, bro, to get the highest, salary possible?
Sure. So you can always negotiate your salary, and recruiters in UAE will be more than happy to do that on your behalf, especially because they're getting a cut. Um, but I think one thing that people need to be aware of is that if you're a software developer, you already know this, but if you're working in like a more IT focused job, you want to look at your total compensation, right? So it could include like a significant part of your compensation could be a housing benefit, right? Where you get a certain amount every month as a stipend to housing, to car. If you're married already and you want to bring your wife and your children, there could be a stipend for them to kind of go to school. So those are the things also that you want to negotiate. The only thing you don't ever need to negotiate is your health insurance. The government forces every company to put you into health insurance. So when you go to a hospital, you'll be taken care of. So yeah, you can kind of negotiate a little bit on salary. They have an idea of what they need to be paying people. It's not like the 2000s, early 2000s anymore. So they do have a reasonable idea, but it kind of depends on the company, how much wiggle room they have. Depends on your recruiter, kind of, and your skill level. But specifically with kind of all the other benefits you get, like housing allowances and stuff like that, you can push harder on those. So keep that in mind.
Fantastic, fantastic, awesome, bro, awesome. And I'm guessing you get a lot of benefits as well. Gym benefits, tickets, for movies. Is that how it works there, bro?
It's interesting actually. So because the Emirati population, I think they're like 10% of the population in their own country, right? There's not a lot of them, and they rely heavily on migrant workers and expats. And I, you know, all the expats I know have always got this, and I believe it's actually written into law where essentially once a year you'll get a plane ticket to fly back home. So if you want to go and visit family, they actually take care of that. And when you're kind of done with your job, as long as you kind of abided by the terms of your contract, you'll actually get a ticket to go home as well. So they take care of you in that way. Some jobs include gym memberships and stuff like that. But one thing you'll find is that when you sign up for like a cell phone or other services, they tend to throw in stuff anyways. So in one way or another, you're going to be covered.
Fantastic, bro. Fantastic. So we are now closing this chapter on UAE overall. Thank you, bro, Kyron, for that incredible breakdown. So I'm going to ask you a question, brother. Okay.
Okay.
It is probably the most important question in the history of mankind.
The only
It's a
question that matters.
question. It's a question, bro, that can, bring about world peace, It's a
Probably.
question that can turn water into wine, like
Yep.
Christ did in the Bible. It's a question, bro, that can make mankind walk on water, like Jesus Christ did in the Bible, bro. And it's a question, bro, that is so powerful. It can probably stop an alien invasion from invading planet Earth, bro. So this question is, brother, right? Are the women in United Arab Emirates checking heavy for brothers and passport bros?
So without a doubt, the answer is yes. And in every group, there's going to be kind of a different answer, but the answer is still yes in every situation.
Incredible, brother. So let's break it down by nationality, right? Because it's the
Sure.
UAE is diverse. You got Emirati women, Arabic ethnic women. I want to
Yep.
know how they treating brothers, right? Obviously, some of them are covered up, some of them are in jeans. But these brown skin Arabic women, how are they feeling towards the brothers, brother, and passport bros? They checking?
Sure. Yeah. It kind of works two ways if you're speaking specifically about women from, like, let's say Turkey to Saudi Arabia and Iran, those kind of Muslim countries, right? Um, the funny thing you'll find is, like, the people who are from like Turkey and all those countries I mentioned, they're definitely checking for expats and specifically black men. So that's not a thing you have to worry about. It's super easy. You want to, you've never had a chance to date a beautiful Turkish woman. You could do that in Dubai pretty easily, right? You want to date a woman from, somewhere like Lebanon, or Jordan, any of these countries in that region, you could do it. Snap your fingers, right? But the other thing that's really, really, really funny, we have all these weird race politics in the West. Women from those Western countries of the same ethnic background, so women with Middle Eastern backgrounds will leave the West, come to UAE, and then that's your chance to kind of date them. Where ironically, in a lot of ways, there's less judgment that they can be more free. So you'll have your chance to date women of every race. Really, it's pretty amazing.
Incredible, brother. Incredible. So the Turkish women there, right? On your
Yeah.
Patreon, you mentioned that they are checking heavy for African dudes from Africa. Do you want to expand on that more about for us, brother, please?
Yeah, like I've seen some very happy looking, dark skinned brothers from Ghana, Nigeria, with very curvy, beautiful Turkish and Lebanese women, and it was not a rare sight. The other thing is that for brothers who are looking to find a beautiful black woman from Africa, there's some ridiculously attractive women from Africa in Dubai. Like I had to like check my glasses right. Um, it's interesting to see, but I think the culture, like I mentioned, religion and the family vibes there, it leads into people dating, and because most of these people have the same religion or similar religion, the cultural barriers go away. And yeah, you'll see a lot of African men with either beautiful African women or like beautiful women from the Middle East. You'll see African guys with Filipino women, African guys even sometimes with Indian women. It doesn't matter if they're from Africa directly or from the West. You will see black men with a variety of beautiful women, and even you'll see them with like the Eastern European Instagram model women that go there as well. Russian women can be really friendly, surprisingly. So yeah, you have your pick of the litter, really.
Incredible, brother. You mentioned Lebanese. Even they're checking for
Yeah,
brothers in UAE.
Lebanese, Syrian. I think you remember in the news, there's that girl that escaped in quotations from Saudi Arabia,
Yep,
and she was seeking asylum in different countries, and
Canada.
she ended up going to Canada. She ended up on that OF platform, and she's a single mother, and I think her kid is half black. Last I
Yeah,
checked. So there's definitely a lot of women of that nationality looking for brothers. And it's funny too, because in Toronto, when I moved to a nice neighborhood finally, I had a lot of women from that part of the world checking for me. And when I came back home, they were like, how do I say? They were happy and impressed that you've been there. They're like, "Oh, I grew up in Bahrain or Kuwait," and they're like, "Oh, you've been to UAE." So if you want to date women of that background, whether you stay in Dubai or not, just the experience of you being there will help you a lot.
incredible, man. And this is incredible. When we as passport bros get in the IT game a lot more, when we get our wealth up, it's gonna be no man can compete with us. Look at the woman checking for us, right? Without us having power and influence. When we get that, it's coming very soon. When we get that right, it's going to be a complete washout, man. And I look forward to that day. All we got to do is be strategic, have structure, have a plan, get into IT, flood IT, dominate IT, get into crypto, have a community of passport bros that are serious. We're gonna dominate. I assure you that, brothers. Keep the faith. I know it's tough right now. It's looking a bit of a myth right now, a bit abysmal. But I guarantee you, brothers, we gonna reach the top. We are going to the pinnacle. No doubt, man. No doubt. Okay. IT, 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 crypto, 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 crypto. Let's get it, man. So, brother, okay, African woman, white
Yes.
woman,
Yeah,
Western woman, you
for
know,
sure.
uh, uh, every nationality and race of women are checking for brothers in UAE.
I would say to the point that like I had to really check myself for a second. I'm like I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, "Who are you?" Right? Because dating for black men in the West can get really complicated. We tend to get pigeonholed into like if you don't fall perfectly into like a couple of personalities and stereotypes, you have a really hard time, right? And the
Yep.
other thing is that a lot of us work ourselves out of poverty and we find ourselves doing well, and then the spoils of that are not the best, right? Um, and you get out of poverty and you do certain things, keep your head down, get a good job in IT, and women want you to be doing ratchet and ghetto stuff to be entertaining, like almost like they're kids, right? Um, in UAE, it's so different, and I literally was only there's a point where when I was still single, I was literally only leaving my apartment to go to work or in quotations to go on dates. That was it.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
I had to look
Incredible.
myself in the mirror like, where did this guy come from? What happened to the old me? Get a lot of female attention in Dubai.
Wow. So let me tell you this, brother, right? Um, Japanese women, South Korean women, are they out there in UAE?
It's increasing. So when I first went there, it wasn't as much, and Dubai is kind of, for a lot of really good reasons, Dubai's got a lot more notoriety of late. Some of the typical expat locations in the world have struggled, right? And like you have places like Singapore that have become a little bit more restrictive. So people have fled to Dubai as kind of their home countries, and expat countries have kind of changed for the worst. And there's an increasing amount of Japanese women that go to Dubai. When I worked in Emirates, it's funny when I would go to the main corporate office, the most beautiful women I saw were the Japanese flight attendants. I remember literally stopping and being stunned, like it was ridiculous. So you'll see them, especially if you're in the area around Dubai Mall. That's where you'll see women of every different nationality. So if you're looking for something specific, you can find it there. Korean women, I didn't see as much, but Japanese and Chinese you'll see for sure. The other thing I should throw out there, though, increasingly there is more women from Latin America going out there, more women from Thailand and Vietnam, and then there had always been, but there's a ton of really beautiful, well-educated, nice, pleasant to deal with Filipino women there. So if you have different interests, you can kind of explore dating the different nationalities and races of women you've always wanted to. Not an issue in Dubai.
Incredible, brother. Um, Russian women in Dubai, I know they're deep out there, brother, right?
Yep.
Super deep. And potentially Ukrainian women, brother.
Yes, there's a
Were they
lot
checking
too.
for brothers? Were they checking for brothers, these Russian women and Ukrainian women?
For the first time in my life, yeah. I had never, it's funny, like I mentioned, all these racial tensions. I don't think, at least in my recollection, right? My whole 25 years of living in a white country, I don't think I ever had an Eastern European girl hit on me in Toronto or in Vancouver. Went to Dubai, totally different story. So again, right, like different nationalities tend to go to different jobs. So the women you hit on depends on kind of how you carry yourself, how you look, and where you hang around. But definitely, Eastern European women will be checking for you out there. Whether it's something like Poland or even something like Russian women, they'll be checking for you. The thing that I'll just caution brothers with is that different people go to Dubai for different reasons. Um, Instagram models are there in Dubai, and they're living lives that are not as glamorous as you would think without getting super deep into it. There's a
Patreon.
lot, yeah, there's a lot of them sleeping on bunk beds. If you want to hear more, definitely subscribe to the Patreon. And because of that, just keep away from the ones with all the extra lip fillers and the extra stuff there. We're not going to get into that, but a normal looking, beautiful Russian, Ukrainian, those women are there. And yeah, they're very easy to talk to. People are approachable in Dubai as well. As long as you're not weird, you can be very easy to approach people in social settings. And then also the online dating game there is not very complicated. It's not super competitive either.
Incredible, brother, right? So at this point in time, right, we got a passport bro in IT making big money in UAE, but he also has many options of women for him to pick from. That's incredible, brother. That's incredible. My
Yeah.
goodness.
I want to point out one critical thing, because where UAE wins, where a lot of countries fail, is that places typically go one way or the other, right? A lot of countries can be good to go and have fun and have casual fun. And there are other countries that are only good for dating, and, dating leading to marriage, right? So either you get married or you have your fun and move on. Uh, the nice thing about UAE is that you could do either very easily there. You could be kind of living that city boy lifestyle, talking to a new woman, dealing with a new woman every night. And these could be wealthy women that you run into, respectable women that are also beautiful. Or you can meet the love of your life pretty quickly and be married in 6 months. I see it all the time. So whichever you're looking for, whether it's something, hey, you want someone permanent, you're getting to that age where you want a wife and kids, women are looking to get married in UAE. And then there's also kind of just a nightlife fun culture there as well. So if you're looking for some quick wins with some high quality women, you can also get that in Dubai.
Uh, I'll keep it a stack with you, brother. I'll keep it 100 with you, right?
Yeah,
I do find Arabic women attractive. Some of them, they come in different skin tones, different
yeah,
features, green
very
eyes,
beautiful.
brown skin, light skin, dark black eyes or brown eyes. I'm like, okay, we're working with something amazing here, right? So,
Yep.
brother, right? You got a brother that's out there in UAE. He's a passport bro, and he wants to deal with one of the Emirati women, brother. I've heard that those are hands off. Don't go near those women. They're not for foreigners. Keep away from them. Is that true?
In Dubai, there's a word very similar to clout. It's called wasta. Basically, it means kind of how much influence you have. So when you go there as a brand new expat and as a black man, what you will notice is that you'll be getting from this conservative culture, and unless obviously they're with their husband or something, uh, the local women will be looking for you, right? Like when you go through Dubai Mall, you'll get that eye contact. But again, the culture's different. So I wouldn't advise when you see a group of Emirati women walking. I would try to say give them some space. Don't think you're gonna go and day game them in public. It's just not. It's not. Is kind of frowned upon. But the idea of like, can you get an Emirati woman to be your wife one day, especially if you're Muslim? Yeah, it's possible. Again, depends on how you look, how you present yourself, and kind of how established you are. So, if you, the nice thing is that, like in corporate America, a lot of black men are held back by the fact that they're black, right? But let's say
Mm.
you kind of build your career, whether it's in real estate, marketing, or IT, three things that are kind of the pillars of Dubai. You get to a high level, you have some influence, you meet the right people, you carry yourself well, good reputation, and you're Muslim. Yeah, you probably could get a local woman. I don't see any sort of boundaries to that whatsoever. Local women do like foreign black men, especially if you're from the West. I would actually say that the harder women to get, it's funny, every like country, like Gulf country, has a little bit of a different twist to it, and they all do come to Dubai and for different reasons. The Saudi women, in a lot of cases, can be the harder ones to kind of, they'd be the harder nut to crack per se, just because a lot of them that come there are with kind of like chaperones and they're dressed ultra conservatively. Um, the Emiratis have a bit more freedom, and you might even meet some at work, really, right? Like when I worked in Emirates, there was actually a lot of Emirati women there. So it's not something where I would bet your money on it, just because they're a small population and obviously they grew up around each other. But is it possible? Yeah, for sure. Definitely happens.
Incredible. Incredible, bro. Okay. That's fantastic. That's what I want to hear. Um, can we find wife for woman, brother, in the UAE? And which nationality of woman have the most wife for woman? Brother, a lot of debauchery goes down in UAE. IG models
Yeah.
getting thrown out there, high body count women from Eastern European countries. You want to know more about that, brothers? Go on the Patreon. We broke it down. So, brother, can we find wives in UAE? And what race and nationality of women are going to be the ones that are more likely to be wives from what you saw, and why?
Sure. For guys that are looking for women with a more kind of conservative background, that's definitely in spades in Dubai. Um, the ones that would be, I think, more aligned with that, obviously the Middle Eastern women, right? You're coming from countries that are very strict culturally and have very clear expectations of what a woman should and should not do. Dubai upholds that, but it also gives them a reasonable amount of freedom, and they will be looking for a husband. So definitely Middle Eastern women are a good place to look. Um, the other group of women that I think doesn't get enough love in Dubai is the African women, right? There's really, really high quality African women in Dubai. There's also some women from the Caribbean there that are engineers, you know, people working in kind of highly skilled industries. So you can meet a lot of really skilled black women from the Caribbean and then from kind of different African countries. Those would be the places that I would look. Either the Middle Eastern background women or the African women. There are also women of other nationalities that you can look at as well. Eastern Europe is very split, right? Like there's a lot of women that will be kind of party animals and doing the IG model lifestyle, but then you'll have kind of women that have barely dated anyone, if anyone at all, that are from Eastern Europe. You can meet them there, kind of more shy women that are nice, pleasant to be around. And definitely, I don't think any of us will, knowing how black men are, but there is a lot of Filipino women in Dubai who would love to marry you, waiting to get married right now. And they have kind of that same conservative background. The Philippines is a Catholic country, and these women have kind of they're growing up in an even more strict environment. so you don't have some of the downsides as a woman living in the Philippines itself. So that's definitely something you can look for.
Amazing. Amazing, brother. How do we spot 304s in Dubai, UAE, brother? Big issue there, but how do we spot them?
3 or 4 is referring to like 3 or 4 out of 10 in looks.
304. Oh, sorry, brother. 304 referring to
Oh,
HOEs.
3 or 4s. Yeah, sorry. 3 or 4 women. There's a couple of ways. So there's one thing that I should warn people is don't be fooled just because a woman has a ton of makeup on, especially if she's Middle Eastern. Okay, and the reason for that is that Middle Eastern women typically don't get to show as much skin, and women are still women. So how do they compensate? Is by trying a bunch of different makeup and beauty products. Might not necessarily be for you, but I can attest that when they wash off the makeup off their face, they're still beautiful. Um, so take that as you will. But for about everyone else, right? Unless they carry themselves with kind of that like old money esteem, and typically we'll see them dressed in really classy clothing. If you see them kind of splashed out in designer clothing, like streetwear designer clothing, like they're wearing Yeezys and stuff like that. Um, Maybe they have new money jewelry on, like a woman in the Middle East wearing a Cartier love bracelet is totally fine, but it's a certain type of Middle Eastern woman or certain type of woman living in UAE who wears a Hublot watch, like Hublot with the H. Um, just look at the types of jewelry she wears. Does she look? Think of it like this: does she look like a princess, or does she look like a girl going to the club? The women who look like princesses might literally be a princess, and the ones who are going look like they're going to the club are trying to go to the club and do things that people who go to the club do. The other thing I would say that actually is a really good way of knowing if they're self snitching or not is where they live. Um, Different parts of Dubai have a different vibe, and if they're living by the beach, so if they're living kind of in JBR downtown, if they're living kind of closer to kind of the nightclub areas as well, right? Like people who are going there for serious reasons. I met a doctor who lived outside of Dubai to save even more money, right? So think about the people, the types of people and their interests if they're living at the beach. They're not there necessarily to focus on work. So just look at it like that. Look for the women who look like princesses, and maybe if you're looking for a conservative woman, I would avoid some of the Western expats, and then the ones that are living in kind of more nightlife areas. Stay away from those ones.
Incredible. Incredible, bruv. So I'm gonna open up the phone lines.
Cool.
We're gonna get some questions in, brothers. Brothers, I strongly suggest you join the Patreon to hear the um X-rated, explicit dark side of the UAE. It is incredible, the breakdown Karen gave us. Ain't that right, bro?
It is, and I think the PG way of saying this is there's so much fun you can have within the UAE as a single man, and people kind of mind their own business. The culture is very conservative, but there's this culture also of you're not bothering anyone, you're doing your own thing in private, we will let you be. And if you really want to find out all the wild stuff that happens in Dubai, whether you want to partake in it or not, definitely listen to the Patreon.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. So uh, uh, so brothers, call in. Please be respectful to our guests. If you can't call in, can you make sure you hit your questions in a PayPal donation and super chat? We got over 120 people watching. There should be a lot more support. This is incredible intel for you, passport bros or future passport bros, man. How many lives you saving? Plenty. Shout out to Mr. Aussie for the $2 super chat. Appreciate you, man. What does a female with a Hublot watch mean?
Good question. So, what I mean by that, right, is a woman in Dubai who wants to show her wealth goes about it in one or two ways, right? So, a classy woman will wear a Rolex, just like a simple Rolex, like something like a date just or a day date, a simple small one. Or they might even wear like, just something like really nice but classic traditional Swiss watch, right? And then they might have some Cartier bracelets or some Tiffany jewelry, right? They will look like a typical woman who has money and grew up in a good home. They will Some of them like Formula One, other ones are into horse racing and stuff like that, right? So they have old money interests and they display this old money atmosphere about them. On the other side, the ones who are much more free and kind of enjoying the nightlife and party life in Dubai, which nothing wrong if that's what you want. They will wear new money stuff, so you'll see them wearing the Yeezys, the Off White, a lot more Gucci, and then Hublot is a Swiss watch company, but for gentlemen who aren't really hip to watches, that's like the I have money and I don't know what to do with myself watch brand. A lot of old money men will look down on you if you have it. And if you see the women wearing Hublot and some of these other like really new designer brands, you can kind of tell their thinking is in one track. So if you want like the conservative, nice, wealthy, well put together family, go for the women who give you that more old money uh, mystique or aesthetic about them, because that's how they carry themselves.
Incredible. Incredible, bro. Thank you, brother, for answering that question. Shout outs for the super chat there. All right, brothers, call in. Call in if you have any questions for our guest. Okay, call in. Now is the time. So, brother, tell me the likelihood of a passport bro dating and marrying a wealthy Arabic woman, Emirati woman in Dubai. Is that possible, or are those completely out of our scope?
I would say that it's possible. I think if you want to like specify Emirati, it's tricky because you have to also understand, like I mentioned, they're 10%, if even, of the population in UAE, and then some of them are going to be old, some of them are going to be too young, some of them are going to be men. So marrying an Emirati woman just based off of math is less culture. Ironically, I would say it's more math that makes it hard, right? But if you're looking for like a wealthy, you know, well educated, respectable Middle Eastern woman, good background, that's super easy. I met some in the Apple store, right? Um, it's not a problem. So you might not necessarily meet someone who's like a local to UAE. It's possible you will, but in terms of just meeting them, just go to nice restaurants, go to the Apple store. You'll run into them in no time, and just be personable, respectful, upbeat. You'll be fine. I think despite him being a little bit embarrassing, I think the vibe you want to give off is Will Smith. One thing I want to point out is like how things are perceived in the West versus how they're perceived in other parts of the world are totally different. And a lot of women in the Middle East, especially living in UAE, were very vocal and positive about black men when Will Smith smacked Chris Rock, because it just came off as like, oh, black men protect their women's image. So just keep that in mind.
Incredible, incredible. Um, so, while I wait for a caller, the nightlife. What kind of women do we meet in the nightlife, bro? And how is nightlife in general in UAE? Break it down for us.
The nightlife there is great because I think I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. In London, it's almost like really equal because the nightlife is dangerous for men and women. It's really uncomfortable and unsettling, the things that happen to people, right? Um, in Dubai, there's no worries of some of that horrible stuff that happens to people when they're going clubbing. That's just not a thing, right? Any of the negative things you can think of that I'm not going to say that we all know that happen doesn't happen in Dubai. There's just no room for it, right?
Mm.
Um, so people are more free, ironically. So you want to drink, meet people, whether it's business or for dating or for just having some fun. Super easy in the nightlife to do that. A lot of artists go to Dubai to perform, and it could be like a B-list artist, or it could be like an A-list artist like Beyonce, Eminem. Also, you have to keep in mind that they do UFC in Abu Dhabi. If other events that are in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Formula One is there as well. So it's all these events, and then in terms of like the clubs and the bars, you have a wide selection. Like the thing about Dubai that's cool is that it's pretty cutthroat that way. Where if a bar or like a nightlife spot sucks, it'll be gone in 6 months. There's no room for like crappy establishments. Only the good ones thrive and survive there. So you can find events to go to, and the women that you'll meet in the nightclubs, it will vary, because you have to realize at some level Dubai is always going to be like Vegas in the Middle East, right? Um, but you will get to meet a lot of women from the West. And I think one thing brothers need to be aware of is that women that are coming from Canada and the UK, who come from some of these like ethnic backgrounds, like maybe Indian or Pakistani, back home there's a lot of people watching them what they do, and they're uptight. They're a lot more kind of free and having fun in Dubai and feel more comfortable, and you can actually meet them and date them or whatever you want with them there. It's a good way to meet women of other nationalities is at the club if you're looking to have some fun. So just keep that in mind. Women back home would be more hesitant to date you or interact with you. The there's no rules in Dubai that way. People kind of just do their own thing. So don't be afraid to approach women of different nationalities that maybe you looked over back home.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, bro. Shout out to Mr. JG for the 199 dollar super chat. And brothers, we got 15 more minutes left in this live stream. So call in or get your super chat questions in. We'll be ending it in 15 minutes. What are the top IT jobs making big money there?
That's a brilliant question. So without a doubt, to no one's surprise, cybersecurity is number one. You can make, I mean, unfathomable amounts of money working cybersecurity. Whether you're working a full time job, you're just making somewhere between 100 to 250K a year, which is like a great amount of money, 100 to 250K USD, not including any of your other benefits I mentioned earlier, like housing or whatever. Uh, the other thing I should mention is that with cybersecurity, you can do consulting, and there's so much opportunity for that. And then also people who are similar to myself that set up kind of unique, bespoke boutique systems, whether it's like a point of sale machine or some sort of entertainment system, like a tablet kiosk that you'd use somewhere at a conference or on a plane. Those types of jobs pay really well in UAE. And then of course, just like anywhere else in the world, if you work in cloud transformation, digital transformation, those jobs pay a ton of money as well. So if you're the person that has the data center experience, you've done co-location before, and you can take a legacy app and walk a company through, digital transformation, whether it's VDI or doing a rip and replace with something else, taking on-prem infrastructure and moving that into Azure or kind of infrastructure as a service transitions. If you work in those areas, you're going to make a ridiculous amount of money. And at the top end, funnily enough, there's almost no competition. So in the like mid-level to junior level, there's a lot of competition. But once you get to like kind of we're senior, I work in cybersecurity, I can do EDR and some of these other things. Really good money there. And then the last two that are super obvious would be software development, and then anyone who works on either crypto or AI, like bleeding edge technology. They just throw money at the newest technologies. So those are the areas I would focus on. Cybersecurity is number one, though. I have to call out because other countries in the region, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, IP, like FireEye and some of these other cybersecurity platforms,
Mhm.
other countries aren't allowed to buy them because of sanctions. So they have to go to UAE to get some of these services. So that's why there's a good cybersecurity market. And also there's a kind of tax-free area where these businesses operate. So when you put these two things together, there's a very thriving cybersecurity market in UAE.
Hold on. So you telling me countries can't buy those kind of products? What type of countries, bro? Like countries like Iran, what's it called? North Korea. They can't buy those products, so they go to UAE and buy it from there. Is that what you mean, bro?
Yeah, like so even some African countries, like FireEye is a good example, and America's obviously, as you know, becoming more uptight about who gets access to American semiconductors and cybersecurity products. But a lot of those companies are restricted from doing business with countries in the Middle East and Africa, and also obviously Russia now. So for those different countries to get access to these services, these IT services, they go to UAE, and to get the consulting expertise, they go to UAE. If you're a smaller Gulf country that has money, an example is Qatar, right? Qatar has a ton of money, but if they need some consulting expertise, especially now that the blockade is done, they go to UAE. So that's something to keep in mind is that Dubai, especially, is kind of the hub in the region for IT.
Incredible breakdown. Incredible. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, bro, for answering that. All right, so brothers, get your questions in. Get your questions in. 10 more minutes. We don't have a lot of UAE streams on the channel, so now's the time to get those questions in. Get those questions in. Fantastic, man. So, let me ask this, brother. Right. Um, Dubai is a very hot country, okay? And obviously, as passport bros, we want to dress well, but we have to be cognizant of the weather there. Obviously, we can't come through when, rocker beanie hats, Sean John jeans, 4XL white tees, Timberland boots, baggy pants. We just can't do that, bruv. So, how do we dress out there that is very, cool, but still like attractive towards women?
I would say the easiest models to copy would be dress like Idris Elba, where it's kind of like that traditional older gentleman, classy Kevin Samuels type of vibe. Carry yourself like James Bond is one way. The other way that works well, that black guys have this kind of advantage this way, is that urban culture is heavily associated with us and well liked there. So you can dress if you dress like Travis Scott, as long as the clothes fits and you're not looking ridiculous. You'll even it's interesting, like you'll even see guys in their 40s that are wearing streetwear. They don't look ghetto
Brothers,
with it. Yeah,
what
like
brothers, or Arabic dudes?
both. I'm talking. I've seen local men wearing like streetwear in their 40s at that. So like, as long as you pull it off well and you don't look ridiculous, like you don't look like you're having a midlife crisis, you're fine. And then I think the other way is, like I mentioned earlier, like a Will Smith, like a casual but clean, inoffensive. Either dress like James Bond, like you're a man on a mission, like Kevin Samuel swag, or something like streetwear. When I mean streetwear, I do mean modern streetwear. So like closer to designer stuff. Nike obviously is fine there. If you're wearing Adidas, stick to the higher end stuff like Y3. And then on the other end, you could just dress like Will Smith, wear some regular clothes, clean cut stuff, uh, and yeah, you'll be totally fine. Especially as a man, the expectations for men and women are different, especially as expats. And if you go as a tourist, it's even lower, right? So I know you said what you said. You can't dress like Beanie Siegel in 1998. Um, However, if you're in good shape, you definitely can dress like you're going to a football game. If you want to, bust out the Arsenal suit, um, you definitely could do that. If you want to dress like a soccer player, you can get away with that in UAE as long as you're in good shape. So a lot of wiggle room for the men. It's an old school culture. The women are kind of have to walk more of a fine line, but for men, as long as you look sensible and clean and respectable, you'll get it.
Okay, so you can wear like soccer tracksuits, and and if you have the right body for it, pull it off, you can still get a woman. Okay.
It will work in your benefit, if anything, because look at who they love so much in the Middle East. They love Ronaldo and Messi.
Mm,
It's
yes,
a big
indeed.
football culture there, right? Ronaldo comes there all the time. You'll see actually in Dubai Mall in the Virgin store, you'll see their jerseys autographed and signed. Lots of football culture, and the local men love it as well. So it's not this scoffing at sports like you're a degenerate, like there is in other countries. As long as you carry yourself well, specifically for football or soccer, if you're an American.
Amazing, bro. We got some upcoming black soccer players that are going to dominate the game.
Yep.
Those being Vinicius Junior and Jude Bellingham, right?
Yep.
Two brothers doing very well right now for Real Madrid. A lot of people watch them in the Middle East. It's going to boost us up even further. Let's get it cracking, man. Let's get
Absolutely.
it cracking. Ooh, Robert, get into IT, man. I'm telling you, get into IT. That's going to unlock a lot of favors and opportunities for you, right? Um, and you won't be locked down in the West right now, which is a fallen society. See what's happening in Israel. See what's happening in America and the UK. Um,
Even Canada.
it is even Canada as well, bruv. Canada, if Toronto's happening in Toronto, it's not
It's
right, man.
sickening. I'll tell you what, IP, I left in 2018 and people had some very harsh reactions to me leaving the country back then. And like they all thought there was something wrong with me. The tables have turned quite a bit, right? Um, and the other thing for people who are in Canada, the UK, and America, you know, it doesn't matter the reason almost because at the end of the day, people need access to their money. And you saw, yes, Kanye said some things that are really controversial and got himself in trouble. But in the UK, someone who said nothing nowhere near as bad, a politician, they closed his bank account and they
Hmm.
publicly humiliated him. And then the CEO for, publicly humiliating this politician had to walk it back and got fired. So people's bank accounts, not just Kanye, regular people, politicians, their bank accounts are getting closed for all sorts of weird reasons. And if you want some protection and diversification, there's no better place than to store your money than UAE. So that's another really big benefit of working and living in Dubai is that you get your money out of that system where your stuff can be seized. Your accounts are closed for no reason and there's no recourse and you're left stranded. Not a thing you have to worry about in UAE. So definitely, as we're seeing the West fall apart in real time, you want a bank account in UAE, and that's also a really good place to own a condo.
Fantastic, brother. Do you still have your UAE bank account?
I do actually.
Good man, bro. And how do you use it now? Is it dormant, or do you send your money where you earn now into that account bit by bit? What are you doing, bro?
So it's funny, like I have more than one account. One of them is dormant. Like some of the banks are more so, hey, you have to have an active visa. Granted, getting a visa, whether you live in UAE or not, is not really complicated. But some of the other banks completely don't care, and I could just keep dumping money into it. Uh, if you have HSBC, by the way, and you have premier banking in one country, doesn't matter if it's UAE, America, wherever, you can connect them, and then things are even more flexible. So yeah, I just kind of send money that way. And the other thing that's really nice is that in UAE they also have Wise. So if you're used to kind of doing cross-border banking using, it used to be called TransferWise, it's just Wise now. Super easy. You can do that in UAE with no problems.
Incredible. That's exactly what passport bros need, man. Brothers, get out the west, man. Get out the west. Next year is going to be a very pivotal year. The year of crypto. The year where brothers are fed up of the west and leave permanently. Brothers need to start making that move, man. So, brother, when you left in 2018, what was the first country you left to?
Well, that's a country every passport bro loves. Went to the
Japan.
land of anime. Went right to Japan. Yeah. I'm for everybody who's listening, I am now living in Japan with my wife, who I met in UAE. So that's the other thing about Dubai and living there, whether it's Dubai or Abu Dhabi, is that it opens a lot of doors for you that you might not think exist later on in life. Whether you stay there permanently, which I know some people do and they love it, whether you take your experience there and use that to elevate yourself abroad, you definitely got to go to UAE.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Working remotely there in Japan, bro, in IT.
Yeah, the funny thing is that Japan has a really good local market as well, whether it's full time or contract, and they even have part time IT jobs, which is rare. And I should mention visas are easy to get, so don't be discouraged. Tons of visas, and the approval process is a lot of discretion, so you don't have to worry. But for me, like working a remote job, whether last company I worked for was Canadian, looking now dealing with some American companies, super duper easy. You just got to manage the time zones. If you can handle the time zone difference, it's not a problem. And the other thing is if you're smart and you kind of set yourself up well, the time zone difference between Japan and Europe is not as bad, and also between Japan and UAE. So if you want to do some consulting that way, it's even easier. So think about kind of whether you look at I'm going to go to Dubai and stay here long term, or I'm going to stay here for a couple of months, a year, 5 years, get the value I need, and then kind of leave. Pop in every now and then. You can do that, and it will elevate your life quite a bit.
Incredible. Incredible, bruv. Wow. All right, brothers. Last 2 minutes in the live stream. Last 2 minutes, brothers. Last 2 minutes. Going once, going twice. So, brothers, if you don't call in the last 2 minutes, we're gonna let Kyron be and let him leave. I know he's got a busy day ahead. He's a married man, so he can't be here all day. Um, so incredible, brother. Incredible. Um, Thank you very much, brother, for coming down here, breaking your experience on the channel in
Thanks for
regards
having me.
to United Arab Emirates. Before you leave, brother, are there any closing statements you have?
Yeah, I just want to give you your flowers. You are saving people's lives. Uh, every year in the West, things just get worse and worse. The restriction of people's rights on their freedoms, whether it's speaking and just general living, the social tension, the unrest, cost of living is getting ridiculous. You encouraging people to leave, even if you just think about your future, if you're planning on having kids, you're doing the best thing for your kids. You're thinking about one day you want to have a wife, you're doing the best thing for your wife. You don't want your wife living in London right now either, right?
Hell no.
You're really saving people's lives right now, and especially for black men, because socially we all know things are getting a little bit weird in the West. We're approaching election season in America. It's only going to get worse. Get your passport, get your career together, get your affairs in order, and leave now, because countries are going to start restricting immigration. It always happens. Look what happened with Europe, right? A bunch of migrants came in, and now everybody wants less immigrants. Leave while you can. Go to UAE, go to Japan, go to Brazil, get yourself settled, get your career in order, get a nice wife, and do it while we still have a chance, because this might be our last chance to get out in a while, because it's getting ugly out there globally.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, bro. One more question, Bobby, before I let you leave, brother.
Sure.
And that's in regards to the Arabic woman you
Yep.
met in Japan, bro. So do you want to break down, how even in Japan, Arabic women are checking for brothers and passport bros? Where did you meet her? How she treated you in Japan and when you went to UAE, brother? Break it down for us, bro.
Sure. In short, black men do really well in Japan as long as either you kind of carry yourself in a classy way, or, funnily enough, um, there is a decent enough contingency of Japanese women that kind of like guys that portray a more tough gangster image, believe it or not. So Japan is an easy place for black men to date and have fun. With that, the women don't have the same experience, right? Like, guys come to Japan to date Japanese women often. So the women who are expats don't typically have as much luck dating Japanese men. And even if they're white women, the Japanese men, what you'll hear expat women complaining, don't take them seriously. Um, with that said, there's a lot of women from different countries, specifically the Middle East, that come to Japan to go to school, to work. And, in the Tokyo area, you'll see them a lot in the areas where there's like a college or some of these bigger companies, and they're very easy to approach and date. There's kind of like a small expat community. So yeah, whether it's just literally going out to a bar or some social setting, dating in Japan at work, if you want to date your coworkers, it's still socially acceptable. You can do that. So it's not hard to meet people. I would say if you're in Tokyo and you want to meet women of a specific demographic, come here at a touristy time, cherry blossom season, or come here during the summertime during festival season. Download Hinge and then set the racial preference to whatever you want, or go to Akihabara and then go to either Bit Camera or Yodobashi Camera, these big department stores where tourists are buying SIM cards, and that's a good place to scout for foreign women. You'll do really well if you do those things. And then the last thing you could do, go to Shibuya at nighttime. It's the main kind of social place, kind of hang around the area, and you'll meet foreigners there as well. And there is a good amount of Middle Eastern women that are coming through from different countries.
Okay. Now, your story, brother, about meeting a woman from Dubai in
Yeah,
Tokyo, break it down for us, bro. How did you meet her? How did she treat you? Was
sure.
she checking for brothers? The whole nine yard, bro.
Yeah, it's funny. So I I kind of came to Japan, just the idea I'm going to travel, experience Japan. I'm really interested in this culture and this place, see if it could be somewhere I wanted to stay in long term, which turned out to be true. And I started traveling with two places in mind: Dubai and Tokyo, right? So, you know, being a young single man, having my fun, experiencing culture, um, just kind of one day pulled up my iPhone. I was sitting in a nice, cozy hotel in the countryside somewhere, and I was swiping through Tinder. Location was set to Tokyo. I had the Tinder Gold, and I came across this Middle Eastern girl who said that she's from Dubai. So swiped right, and of course I got the match. Started talking to her. It was easygoing, and she just wanted to meet up. We kind of went to hang out. There's an area called Ikebukuro where they have a Pokemon Center. There's an aquarium there. There's an indoor Shonen Jump amusement park. So there's lots of stuff to do. And yeah, we kind of just hung out and hit it off, and kind of it was just easy. There wasn't really any friction whatsoever. Opened my iPhone, moved my thumb to the right, and kind of typed a couple of messages, and the rest was the easy.
Amazing, bro. And when you went to Dubai, you met her there. She treated you well. Can you break down how she treated you well in Dubai, bro? Like, paying for your
Started
stuff, showing you
started
love.
before that. Yeah, it's
Break
funny
it
that you
down.
mentioned that. So, in Tokyo, there's like really affordable restaurants, uh, which like different people like, but the Middle Eastern girls is another good way to meet them and to just meet the higher class foreign women and higher class Japanese women. Go to like fancy cafes, right? Women from good backgrounds love that stuff. Instagrammable food is what they're into. So go, Harajuku has a lot of them, but essentially some of those places will cost a little bit more money. That's when you get into $40, $60 per meal. She was paying for meals. I would obviously offer and pay for stuff as well, but she came from such a rich background, she didn't care. She's paying for a ton of stuff. And then, she went to UAE before me. I was staying in Japan a little bit longer, kind of experiencing some stuff, sightseeing, went to a festival. And she hit me up, on Messenger and said, look, she's back in Dubai. I'm in Japan. Summer's winding down. She said, you should come out. Your friend's there. It's a good chance for you to network and grow your career as well. Spend some time with me and spend some time with your friend. And she actually bought my Emirates flight there. So I got to fly to Dubai on an A380, the double decker plane on Emirates. And she paid for the whole thing. She paid for the hotels. And, normally I would be so against a woman doing that. Like I get really guilty feelings when women even attempt to. But when I first met her, she had a luxury car sitting in Dubai, like a luxury SUV. And by the time I got there, she had a whole other luxury SUV. So, there's a different world of money than we're used to. And I think they have this kind of hospitality culture within them. So yeah, whether it's like local women that you're trying to date, taking care of stuff for you, or local men that just are, being respectful to expats or trying to do business with you, expect people to try to cut you deals, pay for stuff for you, invite you out. That Middle Eastern hospitality actually is the thing, and especially with the woman.
Wow. And she was feminine, submissive, cooperative, showed you love, bro. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when I met her friends, actually, for the most part, they were, very kind of, oh no, we have to take care of him. Oh, we need to take him here. Oh, we'll pay for this. Very different culture. I know in the West, the women are being tricked into thinking like, oh, they can do everything on their own, and it's a good thing to be hostile. Meanwhile, you have all these private companies buying residential real estate, and nobody can afford anything, and everybody's miserable. That's not the case in the Middle East. So they're raised with this idea of being hospitable and being more agreeable, and you'll find them very pleasant and nice to deal with. Everybody has their own personality, but for the most part, Middle Eastern women, especially when you go to UAE, very easy to deal with. And even the ones you meet in college, if you think about it, right? A woman who's looking to completely party and go crazy, she's not going to go to Japan, right? She's going to go to London or New York or something like that. The women who are kind of like, I want to experience something different and get more experience and learn and then come back home, they'll go to Japan or Korea and then come back. So keep that in mind.
Wow. And would you say this woman, brother, that, was showing you love, was she into brothers specifically, or she just
Very much into black men, and her friends when we were driving to Abu Dhabi, very much into black men. That was expressed more than thrice. So,
why?
yeah,
Why is that?
like I
What
like I
go on.
like I said, like even when I was in the country Georgia, it's kind of which is nearby UAE, it's the same thing. Their parents grew up listening to older black musicians, and then in contemporary culture, they kind of take pieces of black culture. And also there was one girl with us who was Emirati that was from, if you just looked at her, right, and she wasn't wearing the traditional clothing, you would think she's a black woman from Africa. So there's not that like big cultural divide there. The thing about UAE, the secret to UAE is that they're just westernized enough, right? They're not westernized enough that they're going to be protesting and doing the silly stuff they do in the West, but they're going to be westernized enough that they understand you, but they're still in that system and that culture and those values that you want. So they're very much kind of open to us. And they also understand because let's be honest, a lot of countries look down on how countries treat black men. I think a lot of us forget that. Not every country's okay with, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, what they did to George Floyd and what they've done to black people for centuries, really. And there's kind of this empathy there for us as well. So just keep that in mind. It's a whole different perspective abroad.
Wow, brother, you were in Jordan.
Georgia. It's Republic of Georgia.
Oh, you were in Georgia, bruv. Okay.
Yeah,
How long?
former.
How long were you? How long were
I,
you
I
out there
was
for?
I was there for just like a week. So yeah, I
Okay.
popped in during COVID times because they were open, had some stuff I needed to take care of, and yeah, it's definitely a really interesting country. People are friendly. It's an Orthodox Christian country as well. Beautiful women, good food, very tax effective. You could pay 1% income tax there, and Westerners can stay there visa free for 360 days. So,
Okay.
and it's also like 4 hours away to Dubai. It's a cheap flight away. So that whole region is definitely somewhere you got to keep your eye on. For people who are into crypto, they already know about Georgia because they have the Bitcoin ATMs.
Do we need to do a live stream on that, brother, in the future?
I haven't spent enough time there.
Okay.
I definitely am planning to go back soon though. And it's been also that's another booming real estate market. Is Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia? Real estate prices have skyrocketed since the invasion of Ukraine, and the same thing goes for Istanbul. So that whole region you have to pay close attention to. There's so much opportunity. Real estate prices in Istanbul, Dubai, and Tbilisi have tripled since the invasion of Ukraine. You could have just made triple your money essentially doing nothing, right? So pay close attention to that region, especially with BRICS. A lot is changing, and it's a lot of opportunity there. Keep your eye, especially on Dubai, if you want the kind of established player there, someplace you'll be good. And for dating, that whole region is great, but especially Dubai, just because of the diversity there and the culture there is just amazing.
Fantastic, bro. I've got two more questions for you, bro.
Sure.
Age gap in UAE. Can you be
Yes.
40 and date a 22-year-old woman?
You can
You
be
know,
50 and you can be 50 and date an 18-year-old. So here's the reality, okay? um, this age gap stuff that we're hearing nonstop about where women are against it, even though let's be real, you're about the same age as me. They were all dating older men when we were younger. Like it's preposterous, right?
mm,
Um, the more eastern you go, it's totally different. Oh, this man is older. That means he can provide for you. You'll be respectful. You know what I mean? It's a different expectation. So if you're going to be older and date a much younger woman, they're going to expect you to approach her seriously for serious intent. So don't go canoodling with 18, 19, 20-year-old Middle Eastern women and thinking you're going to just like have all your fun. Date them seriously if you're older and be respectful, but you can. That's not a problem at all. That age gap dating thing being looked down upon is some Western propaganda. Countries trying to police who people date amongst adults when they have declining birth rates. It's a bunch of silly propaganda that does not exist in UAE, and it doesn't even exist in Japan either. So keep that in mind.
and brother, polygamy, right? That's
Yep,
acceptable there in UAE,
absolutely.
but obviously, as a Westerner, you gotta be careful there. But for the Arabic guys, it's okay. So can we
No,
deal with like Oh,
you can do it
go
too.
on. Okay.
Yeah, no. Remember, so you have to there's the culture and then there's Islam, and Islam comes before everything, right? So as
Mm,
long as you can provide for both your wives, all three of your wives, financially, and all the other way a man needs to provide, which is dictated within Islam, you can have as many wives as you want.
amazing. So what about having different multiple girlfriends?
So for the Patreon episode, everyone should tune into. Um, it's how do I put this? Don't cheat because you will get caught. It is a very small social circle in Dubai, but in terms of finding a woman who will be okay with you having multiple girlfriends, the PG answer is that if you want to live that lifestyle, it is a very feasible thing in Dubai.
Fantastic, brother. And last question, bro. You mentioned earlier about a big camera
Yeah,
where you can meet a foreign woman in there, right, in Tokyo. How would
absolutely.
you go about it? So can you just cold approach them, brother, and tell them, "Oh, what are you doing here?" and then get a date? What was your method in actually getting numbers from there, bro?
Sure. So true to form, I just finished playing some Tekken in the arcades in Akihabara. Went over to Bit Camera to do some scouting for prospects. And yeah, I knew that obviously tourists are coming in to get the tourist SIM cards. It's actually even nicer now because the US iPhones don't support physical SIMs. So all the American women you don't want to deal with won't be there. And yeah, I just went over to the SIM card section. I saw this girl. She was half white, half Chinese. saw some things that interested me and started chatting her up and said, "Hey, do you need help finding a SIM card?" It's all, I'm just a tourist. We're all helping each other out. Oh, the language barrier. It's kind of like a chill vibe. It's like an experience for people. A lot of times they're going to Japan as an adventure, and they're kind of people are intimidated. So that's a good sneaky place to meet women.
Oh, and she was from China, living in China, went to
No, it's funny.
Japan.
So this is this is another thing why you definitely have to go to places like Dubai and Japan. Okay, she was half white, half Chinese. Grew up a little bit in Canada, not too far from Toronto, and then also lived in China and a couple of other different places. And she was the first woman who really flexed on me. She had 5 passports from different countries. She flexed on me. She's like, "Oh, you don't have multiple passports?" I didn't even realize that was a thing, right? And she kind of put me on to like, no, she travels to different countries. So she's like, oh, when I go to this country, I use this passport. When I go to this country, I use that passport. And it's opened my mind so much. So little things like that, just by putting yourself in places where the women are of a higher caliber, really elevate your life.
5 different passports. She was half white,
Yeah.
half Chinese. So Chinese passport, Canadian passport. Um, Whoa.
She had an EU passport of some sort. There was one more passport that she had that was like kind of like a Western country. She had another Asian passport. Like, you know, even there are just little things like when you deal with women who are come from wealthy backgrounds, right? In the summertime, I would stay. I lived in the projects, right? Like I would stay inside so bad things wouldn't happen to me. They would be like, "Oh no, we would travel to like Rome with my family, and we went to all these places." And you will start to think a little bit differently once you have conversations with these women, and it will encourage you to travel more. It's funny, all the women that hate on passport bros are from a certain income level and are from a certain background. The women who don't hate on them are usually higher class. And by traveling and talking to these women, you'll get a different perspective and it will really push you. Like you girls with multiple passports. I met in Dubai a woman. I'm not going to say the country, but she was like close to a princess. My friend was running a conference, like just to meet people. He had this really really great event right near the Burj Khalifa. Beautiful view. Everyone's having a great time, and she actually approached me with her friend, and started talking, and she literally was like would be the equivalent of a princess in some country. Um, so the quality of women you'll meet is just it's astronomical, right? Because you grew up in the projects. I had I grew up with girls fighting over bus tokens and pizza slices. Like I wish I was making that up, right? Bus tokens, pizza slices, hair weave, that's what women are fighting over where I grew up. Then I go abroad and it's like women are flexing on me. They got multiple passports, you know, their dad they've lived in different places, going to private schools, residence by investment. You start to learn all of these old money things and it will just change the way you approach the world, and you start to realize that the world is your playground. Your money can come from one country, your investments can be in another, you have fun in another country, you try to look for your wife in another country. You don't have to put your eggs in one basket, and I actually learned that from women abroad.
Wow. So did you go on dates with the half Chinese, half white chick and the princess?
The princess, I was a little bit timid. She was very nice and I actually still talk to her, but I was timid to date her for fear of she wasn't Arab. That's the only hint I'll give. She wasn't Arab. She was from another country in the region. And my thing was like, I don't want to piss off anybody from one of those countries and vanish. But still talk to her every now and then. She's quite nice. And then the half white, half Chinese girl. Yes, I did go on some dates with her. Uh, have some photos with her. Fun times. Spent some time with her, kind of in central Tokyo, Akihabara, Shibuya, Shinjuku. Really nice girl. And just, yeah, put me on to different stuff. Really good experience. I definitely think a lot of brothers will just make sure that you understand a lot of that emotional weight, baggage, and negative perceptions and conclusions you have about women and dating in the West. It doesn't apply when you go abroad. So just treat it like a reset and you know have your knowledge from before, but try to treat it like a learning experience every time you deal with a new woman. Um, I had women in Japan actually approach me that were Korean. I grew up around different races of people in Toronto. I lived in a Korean neighborhood. Not a single Korean woman ever stopped to me. stop to talk to me, right? I went to Tokyo. I'm just walking around the area, the Golden Guy, where it's like all these bars and it's kind of touristy. Locals go there too, and two Korean women just approached me, cold approached me. Think about that, right? Same thing in Dubai. You have women cold approach you. Forget like this culture where it's like, oh, I have to walk on eggshells and I have to have my game perfect. I have to be a hardcore player and I have to have all the lines and all the responses. No, it's not like that. The women will cold approach you in the Middle East, in at least in Dubai or Bahrain and Turkey, Georgia even, and they'll cold approach you in Japan, cold approach you in Korea, cold approach you in Hong Kong and Singapore. So just like get out the West. You're killing yourself. You know, one of the number one killers of black people in the United States is actually stress.
Mm. No, it is, bro. Facts. Before I let you go, brother, right?
Yeah,
So you asked for the girl for a number, the half white, half Chinese chick, and you told her,
of
I think
course.
you're good looking. Do you want to hang out? And that was it.
No, I just kind of just chatted her up like, hey, you know, you looking for a SIM card? And she's like, yeah, you know, she was super receptive and nice and bubbly. Women who aren't ruined by the West are like that. And yeah, we just started kind of kicking it. And she said, you know, she's her first time in Akihabara. She wanted to kind of explore. And I asked, hey, have you seen this? She's like, oh, do you want to kind of hang out? And she was totally open to it. I didn't even really I'm not listen, I'm a nerdy tech worker. I've loved technology since I was a kid. I am not the Riz god. And even then, it's still easy for me just to chat her up and kind of go about my day. And she was totally receptive to it. Women are very doesn't matter how that's the interesting thing as well. You know, you'll find in UAE, doesn't matter how poor or how wealthy they are, they're very receptive to positive, respectable men. Even if you're a black man, it's not like a negative mark at all. And a lot of times it could be a positive. So yeah, she was. We have some nice photos that we took. Not sure my wife appreciates it, but we had some nice photos that we took in those photo booths in Akihabara where you pose like like the Japanese girls.
You smash, bro. Keeping it PG.
Well, I do. I'll just say that I have my types, and I've always had my type. So I don't let opportunities go by.
Oh man, an amazing live stream. So we gotta let the brother Kyron go. He's definitely he's a busy man. Kyron, thank you very much, bro. Let's definitely get you on again, brother. And much
Anytime.
appreciated
Thank
for
you.
you breaking this intro down for us, bro. Much appreciated, bro.
Thank you for having me, and you know, I hope everybody really learns something from the stream and listens to IP. Get your passport and run. Even Donald Trump, who's going through all these trials right now, they're finding out he has multiple passports. Nobody wants to just have all their eggs in one basket. You know, Jay-Z once said, "I got five." But the line is like, "I got five
I ain't got
passports. I'm never
better,
going
but
to
I ain't
jail."
got Joe.
Yeah, like don't keep your money in one country. Even Donald Trump had money in China after all of that talk. So be realistic, be global minded. Globalism is here to stay, whether people like it or not. Don't let anyone discourage you and go and find out for you because black men get perceived very differently amongst our group. We're a diverse group of men. Go and see which country gels with you. I set my Tinder to South Korea, I get a whopping 0 matches. I set it to the Philippines, I got 99. I set it to Japan, I got 40. Different countries, different experiences, right? You know, some guys do well in Germany. I don't. Some guys do poor in the UK. I do really well in the UK. You got to find your hotspots. Use Tinder. Go physically. Go to places because dating in person is different than online, and just figure it out.
Thank you, bro. Much appreciated, Karen. Feel free to leave anytime you want, brother. I'm gonna go on for another 5 minutes as my closing
Cool.
statement, brother. But much appreciated, bro. So
Thank you.
yes, that was Karen there. Appreciate Karen, man. Brothers, yeah, I gotta get your passports, man. Get into IT. This is motivation. This is definitely a top 10 live stream ever, brothers. And hearing this just makes me want to book a one ticket flight, one way flight to a country of my choice and just leave everything behind in the West, man. Like I'm at a breaking point at the West. It's just too much nonsense, horrible woman, garbage culture, miserable, just getting by, bruv, you know, just getting by. It's just too much nonsense, man. And I hearing this, man, just makes me feel like F it tomorrow, book a one way ticket and leave everything behind, quit my job, just do it. I'm really thinking about doing that, brothers. Because every day passes, man, I just get more frustrated in this country. And it shouldn't be that way, bruv. It shouldn't be that way, brothers. You're missing out on living life. You're missing out on living life. Oh my goodness, man. I'm at a crossroads here, bruv. Shout out to Mr. JW for the $9.99 super chat. Appreciate you, JW, for the support. Thank you, bro. Brothers, only 4 super chats today. We got over 120 people. I mean, y'all gotta support more, bruv. You know, this kind of intel you will not get from anywhere else. I'll keep it a stack, bruv. This kind of intel, some dudes are paying $500 for. You're getting it for free on this channel, and it will always be free. So if you can support, man, you got to support, brothers. You know, you really got to support, man. Thanks there, JW. That means a lot, bro. That really does. So, as you know, go and join the Patreon to hear the the dark side about Dubai, X-Rayed Explicit. Go and check it out. Man, okay. Yeah, that's it, brothers, man. Bruv, this is motivational. This is motivational, man. Makes you want to quit everything. Makes you want to sell, your makes you want to sell everything. Makes you want to say F it, bruv. F it, bruv. What's the point? I have a lot of thinking to do because I'm hearing this has lit a fire in me. Shout out to Mr. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master for the $5 super chat. Hey IP, legendary live stream. Gonna make my business happen someday. I promise we will meet in time. I got you. Thank you, bro. Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Wanna hopefully that's successful for you, bro. Shout out to you, bro. And yes, indeed, man. Hopefully, brother. Thank you, bro. Salute, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master. Thank you, brother. Awesome, man. Damn, I'm fired up. I am fired up. Man. Dubai. And hearing his experience in Japan. When you hear that, how can you not be motivated? You know? These Western women have just ruined themselves, and many times I blame them, and in a different time I don't blame them because there's a certain group of people that control America and the West. I ain't gonna say no names. I ain't saying no names, but we know who they are. They control every single aspect, every industry in America. One group of people. It is very clear. It is very obvious. They also control every other Western country. But I ain't gonna say no names. Okay? Do your own research. All right. They have ruined the West. They really have. So I'm going to end the live stream here, brothers. So I look forward to seeing you, brothers, on the Passport Bro show with me and Theo on Monday. A shout out to Theo for what he's doing. Shout out to all the brothers who are getting into IT. Reach out to me for any IT consultations or the IT mentorship plan on the Platinum tier or the IP Lightning tier on Patreon. And yes, and shout out to once again our guest, Kyron, for the great breakdown. Thank you very much, Kyron. So where's everyone listening in from in our last minute? I'm going to end it at 2 hours, 30 minutes. What country, what city, what state? And if you want to come on my channel and share your experience, brothers, please reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a DM on IG, IP, International Passport. We'll get back to you, okay? Here is my IG. Send me a DM and I'll get you on the channel to share your experience, okay? Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. Last 30 seconds. Last 30 seconds, man. Where y'all listening in from? Reach out to me on IG. Okay. All right, brothers. Last 30 seconds, bruv. last 15 seconds. I'm gonna end the live stream. Okay. All right, brothers. Yeah. Have a great weekend ahead. And I'm gonna see your brothers soon. See you on the Passports Bro show on Monday. Shout out to our guests. Shout out to those who donated. Let me check. Shout out to those who liked the video. Much appreciated for the support, man. So, brothers, take it easy. Be safe, be easy. And I'll see you brothers on the next video. All right. Thank you, brothers.